From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher. Their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicky Fisher. Our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Skripchuk. And our Batman, the master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical, our mild-mannered soon-to-be billionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission, to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them, and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Welcome to the Garage Heroes in Training podcast. I'm going to be one of the hosts for this episode. My name is Bill. Who else is hosting?
I'm Vicky.
You are. We have a guest.
Mm-hmm.
We have a guest who he has raced with Ben Dawson. He has a member of the Winsome Racing Team, and he just raced last weekend at Lucky Dog's CMP event, second one of the season. And we'll talk about that review in a little bit when Ben's free to come on the podcast. But for now, we'll welcome Read Tull to the podcast. Welcome, Read.
Hey, thank you, guys.
Hey, no worries. So you put up with Ben for an entire weekend.
Oh my gosh, I've been putting up with that guy for like a decade now. So one more weekend, I guess, is okay.
I guess. I mean, you know, after a weekend like that, you'd think you get a better reward to coming on our podcast, but you know.
Hey, it's great to be here, hanging out, I'm sitting in my sim rig right now with my headphones on, talking to you guys. I had to go find all the pads. I'd ripped the seat pads out of this seat to put in my race car for the race, and I sat down. There's all the Velcro hooks just digging into my back and my butt. So that's why I was a little bit late getting on here with you guys. It's like, man, I need something to sit on.
That's not a problem. Our cat seems to think that the sim rig is a scratching post, so we're gonna have to work on that. But
yeah, that's what the spray bottle's for, right?
Something like that. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
So not the best intro I've ever done. Care to give our listeners who might not be familiar with you something? Family, professional, racing, whatever.
Yeah, I've been into cars for a while. I guess we can talk about that a little bit. That's what this is for, right? Since I was a little kid, and I know Ben through his awesome wife. We went to vet school together, so I'm a veterinarian. And yeah, been racing cars for a while. Got kind of started in autocross, and then realized track days are even more fun than autocross, and then wheel to wheels more fun than that.
Sounds appropriate. I think we agree.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as the it sounds like you started off with the autocross, but as far as any kind of training or racing experience, what have you been doing mostly since you started?
Yeah, so mostly with wheel to wheel stuff. I think my first wheel to wheel race, this is probably back in 2015, 2016 was WRL. I had a lot of fun there racing a Miata, Ben's old Miata, or actually it might have been our E30 at that point. Not quite sure. It was one of those two. Had a blast, and then also been doing some champ car, or as Ben would say, chump car, and lemons. Lemons is a blast, man, too. And then more recently, been running in AER and Lucky Dog. I built this car, an E36, kind of to the rule set, more or less, to be competitive in AER and WRL, and haven't really gotten a chance to run it with WRL at all. So I've been this year just did two races. This one this past week in a Lucky Dog, which was awesome, and then AER a few months ago.
So, what cars are you driving on track, and what is your personal car that you're driving now?
Yeah, so on track it's an E36 M3. Fun car, 1998. It has plenty of power. It's a lot of fun. I wish I had some pictures I could share with you guys. I'm sure I can dig some up and send it your way, but I'm sure you've seen pictures of it too from this past weekend. Apart from that, we were racing a Miata with Winsome and an E30 with Winsome, but those are no longer with us right now. There may be a new Winsome car coming soon, though, to the stable. For a daily driver, kind of alternate depending on which one has a full tank of gas. I drive one, empty the gas tank, then get in the other, start driving it, empty the gas tank, then fill up both. It's either my tow rig, which is a Tundra, or a 370Z. Then on the weekends, I also have an old 1960 Morgan. That was my grandfather's that I've got running pretty well, so I'll drive it around for fun.
Did you say your tow rig is a 350Z?
Oh, did I mix that up? The Tundra is the tow
Okay.
rig. I could
I-
try towing with the Z. It might not get too far, but
I was gonna say, what are you towing? Like a go-kart or something there?
you just have to
Right.
foot to the floor and it'll get there.
Yeah, just don't cross the mountains, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah, right. Well, going down the other side is fine.
Well, yeah, but sometimes it depends on whether your brakes are still
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Now, you probably mentioned it before, but how long have you been doing this?
Let's see. I think the first time I did, I guess autocross, I got started when I was in college, maybe high school. So like probably 2004, 2006, somewhere in that area. And I think my first DE, I had this instructor named Ben Dawson. Was in
We apologize.
yeah, was in 2012. And then probably started wheel to wheel in like 2015 or 2016.
Hmm.
So your first time on track was with Ben Dawson, and you continued to come back. Well, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
That's kind of a fun story. He can elaborate on that in a little bit, but helped. I guess I helped him out. Me and a bunch of my friends helped him out when he had a sick dog. Since I'm a veterinarian, and he's like,
Mhm.
"Hey, you like cars? I want to get you in my Miata. Come drive around VIR with me. There's a track day. I'll be your instructor." So it's like, yeah, let's do that.
You like cars. I
Yeah,
like cars.
exactly.
Let's
first-
like cars together.
Yeah, the first time I met Ben, which this is probably 70% of the time he's wearing this, but he had like the number 3 Earnhardt hat on and everything. So knew he was a car guy. And actually, I think I met him at a Halloween party, and that's what he had on. And I figured, oh, that's okay, dressed up like Earnhardt for Halloween. Then no, it turns out that wasn't a costume at all. It's just what he wears all the time.
Consistency is the key to his game.
Exactly.
So, where do you see this going? I mean, just to continue, do you have any goals with it?
I think my main goal is to have fun. Hopefully, have a car that finishes races more consistently.
So
I think that's
working on that.
Yeah.
I think
No,
that's
man, I'm really
everywhere.
it's just having fun with friends out at the track. Even if the car's not running 100% all the time, I'm there for hanging out, having fun, looking at other cars. Of course, it's more fun when you're on the wheel, and it's even more fun when you're on the podium, getting some hardware. But
Yeah. Any tracks on the list of places to go, or any specific races or series?
Honestly, I think in terms of series to drive in, it's really just whatever's closest to me because it's more convenient to stuff coming to VIR, CMP, since I'm in North Carolina, or up and down the East Coast. I haven't gotten to any tracks north of VIR really, so I'd love to get up to some of those up in the Northeast. Been down to Barber, Road, Atlanta, AMP. Those are all blasts too. At some point, I'd love to maybe, I don't know, do an arrive and drive or even trailer my car out, ship it out to the West Coast and hit some tracks over there. It'd be a lot of fun.
Arrive and drive, I think, is the better way.
I've looked into like costs of shipping a car across the states. It's not that bad. I would ship the car out there, then fly out and meet it out there.
It's the other stuff,
Yeah. The logistics and everything.
I guess the tools and the helmet and the blah, blah,
just
blah, blah, blah.
well, that's why you get a wagon race car, I guess, right? Just throw that all in there.
Yeah, true. And then you got to get it back.
Yeah.
Oh. So, are you mainly a driver, or when you're racing, do you take on other positions in the team?
I think how our team's set up, we're pretty much all drivers and all trying to figure out what to do, like wrenching on the cars. And I don't know if there's a whole lot of strategy for a lot of these races. It's basically whoever's not actively in the car driving, other people are trying to figure out, hey, let's pit now, or let's fuel now, let's do this and that to try to get a competitive advantage. But there's not one assigned person doing one thing in particular. I guess the one thing that I've been doing is building the car for the most part. I think this car's kind of my baby right now, lives in my garage. So
Hmm.
more recently, I'll say it's a team car, but it's really me who's prepping it and everything, and then basically treating my awesome teammates like arrive and drives for the most part. But they all help wrench and stuff too. So
Okay.
So,
So,
so, so since Ben's not here, he always professes to have zero mechanical talent, skill, or interest.
Ben tactfully says that, so he's like, "Oh, there's stuff that needs to work. Well, you don't want me working on this, so let me go talk to these people, have a beer over here." It's like, I don't know, Ben, but at the same time, if he's just fun, he's having fun driving in the car, going fast, and can offer some tips for us to go fast too. That's kind of his role in the team. Maybe he's more of the cheerleader that looks kind of like Jesus.
do you have a race philosophy? It's one of my favorite questions. When you're racing, what do you tell yourself? What do you tell your teammates? Something you keep going back to?
That's a great question. I don't know if I really have one. I think the main thing's to A, have fun, B, get the car back in one piece, hopefully.
Hmm.
And that's the main things are there for. Um, but no, not I don't think I have a specific philosophy. Need to think on that one. That's a good question.
It's one of Vicky's favorites.
It
Yeah.
is. I like to hear what
What
people say to
yeah, are there
themselves.
are there some other good answers I could plagiarize for that question from someone
Well,
else? What
I've mentioned I've kind of used the "damn it, I paid to be here too," kind of like move over,
yeah. Yeah.
you know, or what was the other one? What were some of the ones that we've heard?
Go fast, die hard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what was the one? If you haven't,
Don't be an
i-
idiot, you moron.
yeah, don't
That's a good
step on your
one.
wiener was
Yeah.
one. Except they didn't use wiener. What
No.
was the other one? What was the famous one? Was that if you haven't puckered, you aren't going fast enough.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one. I mean, there's always that if you ain't first, you last, right?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Ricky Bobby's been quoted a few times, I
I'm
think.
sure. I'm sure. No, man, that is one I have to think about. I need a good philosophy.
There you go. Well, Ben, I'm sure can come up with something for you if you.
Oh, I'm sure he probably has three in his back pocket. He'll just whip out. So.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Exactly. So we have kind of a traditional question where we go with the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Okay.
So in this case, we're going to go with anything you've learned from your HPDEs or your autocrossing or your track wheel to wheel races or time trials. What were something good? It's like things that you would say to somebody who's looking to get into the sport that you would say, this is something you should do. Bad would be things that you did or things that you've seen not to do. And then ugly is just an excuse for us to get a good story.
Oh, let's see. I think honestly, the good thing, the main thing is the community. Besides the really cool race cars, I've met so many people through this. And it's funny, my girl or fiance now, my fiance gets kind of she picks on me because whenever I go to say a party or we're out at a restaurant or who knows a kid's birthday party, I will somehow find the one or two other car guys there. And when I am in a social situation, someone comes up to me, someone says, "Oh, I heard you're a car guy." Like I'm to the point now where I try not to talk about cars too much because
Right.
I'll just start going and going and going,
And then
and
and then you
and
get
then
the
they lose
glazed over
interest.
look.
Exactly, and it's
I
like,
don't know what you're talking about.
yeah. So I have like this block where I try not to talk about it now. But man, I've met so many people, and it'll be like, oh, a 1 degree of separation between me and one other guy I've never met or another girl I've never met who's into cars. So I think that's awesome. Um, but I don't know. I've been fascinated with cars too for such a long time, like since I was a little kid. Man, even if they're not racing, I just like looking at cars, looking at car design, stuff like that, and poo-pooing stuff and being, that uh, keyboard expert on everything, anyways. That I'm sure I'm wrong about 50% of things I say about cars, anyways. So, um, so I think that was the main good is the community. surrounding car culture in general, but specifically racing and track type stuff.
Hmm.
So I'm
Cool.
guessing a few other people have said that before too.
Yeah.
'cause, yeah,
Racers are the best people.
we are.
Hmm.
The bad. Well, currently right now, I think the bad I'm going to go with BMW steering racks.
We
'Cause
have some opinions that differ on the source of that, but
yeah, I've been talking to a number of people about that, and I'm sure at the end of it, I'll figure out what's wrong, and it's probably something I did. So
Yeah.
there's like, oh yeah, you used an M10 bolt. Well, actually, that's an M9.9 or something. I don't know. Um,
if at first you don't succeed, just keep putting the same part in. Eventually, it'll work.
exactly. That's my philosophy. If not, just start. There we go. Perfect philosophy. There it is, Vicky.
There you go.
And if not, that's what JB Weld's for. So, um, man, the ugly, I guess, about racing in general. I think of two things. Number one, there's a lot of money involved to do it, even at the grassroots level.
Right?
You still have money?
Yeah, yeah, what?
You're doing it wrong, man.
It's better than horses, though.
Yeah, you don't have to
It
feed
depends on how
it.
you do
Yeah,
it.
yeah, that's true.
You don't have to keep it alive.
Exactly.
Well, then again, you kind of do.
That's true.
It just doesn't breathe. Well, then again.
It's closer than you think.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes I've thought about taking up a different hobby. Like when back in the day, I used to be really, and I still am like really big into outdoors and nature and stuff like that, like total like nerd out there walking around the woods. It's like I was big into bird watching, and I'm sure there's a way you can make that expensive too. Like you need the latest cool binoculars or something, but there's no way that's coming close to racing cars.
No.
So
I hope not.
Let's see. Other than that, other bad about car racing, I guess, or I can't really think of one.
There you go. Our
Yeah,
favorite story
at
time,
least,
though.
yeah, story time. Oh, let's see. I'm trying to think of a Ben Dawson story too to get in there somehow, but nothing's coming
Don't worry.
directly
You
to
can
mind.
do more than one.
Okay, okay.
He's late, so we get to talk about him, and he
Oh,
can't say a word.
nice. Now, the tough thing is I'm trying to think of, and here's one. It seems like every time I have been on the podium, number of two, not too many times, with Ben Dawson, I leave having just been nut tapped by that guy. So there are pictures of every picture I have on Facebook or social media of me like with a trophy in my hand, Ben Dawson just with this huge grin on his face, just smacking the shit out of my testicle area. So that's him.
That's awesome.
I'll get him back sometime. Yeah, that's why maybe I have a little bit of a higher pitched voice these days after racing. It's not from the 6-point harness, it's from Ben.
Oh gosh. Ben Dawson.
Oh yeah. No, man, other than that,
any besides CMP, any
yeah,
on track stories, like something that jumps out from your history that would be entertaining? Usually they end up being bad stories that we've earned, but it's kind of like combat pay.
There's been some drama one time when we were building a car, and I think Ben Dawson would also be a great one to weigh in on this. I don't want to name names or anything here, but we were building the E30. When we were building that, we had it at a mutual buddies shop that we kind of offered to let us store it there for a little bit as we were working on it, and after a while, kind of I don't know really what happened. All of a sudden, he he said the car was his since we had been storing it there, even though he offered to hold it for us and didn't want to give it back to us. So that was a little interesting. Maybe that's part of the bad. We can put that in the bad.
Yeah,
I don't want to dwell on that too much, but yeah, I guess the last time I was at CMP in our E30, which we no longer have, tear of joy, had a brake failure. That was no fun. Pedaled down to the floor in turn 14, going pretty quick into that corner, like around 90 or so. I never realized that a small amount of sand right before a tire wall can just catch a car so quick, man. It just dug right in, went basically coming into the turn, pedal, brake pedal, braking at maybe a little bit before the normal spot. And a lot of times I left foot brake just a little bit in high speed right before I get into a brake zone, make sure the pads are all seated up there,
Mhm.
in case there's been knockback or something. It felt okay to me. So then I got on the brake at the normal brake marker I had been hitting, and man, just went to the floor, start pumping it, nothing going on there. I thought maybe I could make this turn. And if you don't know CMP, or for those of you don't that know it, turn 14 is the last turn onto the front straight there. Hard
Mhm.
right-hander, probably the slowest corner on the track. Probably went into it going, I don't know, 85 miles an hour or so, a little bit
Ooh.
faster than you're supposed to go into there. And my initial reaction, besides pulling the brakes, I started turning the wheel like, yeah, let me just try to make this turn. And within, I don't know, just a few milliseconds, realized that's not going to happen. So I straightened up and just looking at that wall coming at me really quick. It's like, oh, let me take my, maybe even take my hands. I might have taken my hands off the wheel, so I don't jam my wrist into the wheel, or if it whips or something. I don't know if that's a thing. I see rally car drivers do it in accidents, so it makes me look professional to do that, right? And man, that car just dug straight in to the sand. And just like what, 20 feet of
Wow.
sand or something right there. I thought for sure I was going to hit that wall at speed, but that stuff's awesome. So now I want sand everywhere,
Except on the golf course. Yeah.
except on the golf course. Yeah.
I
That's
got you.
right.
All right. So we're going to take advantage of you being here and Ben not being here.
Yes.
What's it like having Ben Dawson as your instructor?
Oh boy.
And here's the thing, I've known him for such a long time. I hope like he doesn't normally get into the instructor seat with other students and nut tap them. Hopefully that's just something he does with me. I mean,
It's
I don't know
special for
why.
you.
I guess so. So I don't know if he gives me, a little bit more harsh critiquing than other people. And honestly, I don't think I've had him in the passenger seat, or sorry, the right seat with me in quite some time now. But man, he's great on track for giving you pointers. I feel like the number one thing he's always said to me, and probably most people when they start, tracking, is, go, 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 go faster. Don't break yet. Don't break yet. And at least I've been in with other instructors, and I haven't had that saying. I think he pushes people a little bit more. I guess I'd put it that way. Typically, when I'm in the seat, I've done a little bit of instructing. I'm not, NASA or anything like that instructor. Just with some local track days around here, and man, that's pucker moments left and right when
Wow.
I'm instructing. And then Ben gets in there and he's like, no, no, you need to go faster. Nope, keep going. And that'd be the main thing I'm thinking about with him. Not to mention that guy can just get on a track and kind of instinctually know what to do. It seems like even a new track, after a few laps, he's got it down pretty well. Um, but I guess he's been doing this a long time, be it dirt track or karts or now road racing.
Okay, so since you were so nice to Ben, we have to
Yeah.
stop that. That's a bad
Oh
precedent to
gosh.
set
Oh
here.
no.
So have you ever right seated with Ben?
Yeah, I have. Oh, a good story about that. Someone else who was right seated with Ben is his wonderful wife. And I think after half a lap around VIR, she had to, they had to pull off track. She wasn't feeling that great.
Mhm.
Had to visit the restroom, and it sounds like it bypassed the upper GI and went just straight to lower GI stuff. So that was
Oh
kind of funny.
yeah.
That was no good.
No.
One funny story about Ben that reminds me. There was a track day. It was a Saturday, Sunday track day. And this was back when we had the Miata, in a Miata. He was up there driving it and giving a lot of like ride-alongs with other, I think some family up there, driving them all around the track all day. Other students getting in the car. It was basically like a track taxi around VIR. And the plan was for him to drive it on Saturday, park it. He had to do something Sunday, and I was going to go up Sunday and drive the car and then trailer it back. I get up there just in the pit, start backing this car up or something. It's like, oh, something doesn't sound right. I get out, and one of the wheel bearings was just shot. It was like, shopping cart,
Wow.
pushing that shopping cart and having it, wiggle around. So
Oh,
that
that's
was kind of funny. It's like, you were driving everyone around in this, buddy.
Wow.
um, but it turned out pretty well for me because I didn't feel comfortable driving that car. So when my other buddies who was up there said, "Hey, you don't have a car to drive. You're here to do a DE. Why don't you just take my car out? Go in a different run group than me." And it was a pretty cool E36 M3. And then after that event, it ended up coming to live in my garage for a little bit because he didn't have a place to store it. Then after like 6 months, he said, "Hey, do you want to just buy it from me?" So that's how I ended up with my race car.
Ooh.
So it worked out for the better.
I was gonna say that sounds an awful lot like a car that I know you have. So
Yeah, exactly. So there's a story behind that.
awesome. So how would
Yep.
because Ben has this description that I think our listeners have in their mind of Ben describing Ben driving is one thing. So Reed describing
Yeah.
Ben driving. What would you say are kind of symptoms of Ben being behind the wheel?
I compared to some people driving, some people certainly being me, he takes a lot of curb on track. I think in terms of like traffic management, going around other cars, he knows very well where he needs to place the car, where he needs to get around other cars to take advantage in a racing situation. But at the same time, I think, Ben, there's some times where, we are in an endurance race and almost driving like a sprint race. It's like sometimes like I have to get on the radio, "Ben, you need to back it off a little bit, buddy. We have another 6 hours in this race." Which, man, he's fast for sure, but I think he gets out there, it's like, "Yeah, man, let's go," and getting past everyone, which a lot of times works out really well.
Mhm.
But yeah, I feel bad sometimes just having to slow him down a little bit just from a I guess a race strategy perspective.
Something tells me that's not surprising to anybody listening at all.
Yeah. It
Mhm.
reminds me back, there was one of the Gran Turismo, like the PlayStation games,
Mhm.
where you could do like a B spec mode where you were like managing your race car drivers out there, and you could kind
Mhm.
of select from different drivers, and there'd be like the patient guy, the skillful guy, and then the guy that goes for all these gaps and drives like 11 tenths, but he has a higher risk of spinning out on track or something.
Mhm.
Ben, to me, it's like that 11 tenths guy. He doesn't spin out or cause many concerns on track, but there's always a little bit of, there's a little puckering when I'm watching him drive my car around a little bit. But I mean, I trust the guy obviously to do that.
Right.
So
Have you ever had a wreck?
let's see. I have never had car to car contact. I had the one time the brakes failed and I went, to the beach in the car. Another time, totally my fault. It was a champ car race at VIR in the wet. And our car, this was the E30, felt like I had some pretty good pace on a few other cars. And this is embarrassing. Might have been my outlap too. And I started getting on it pretty good. The car felt like it was gripping well. And I went to pass someone through the lower S's, so through Snake there, which is what, turn 6, turn 5B, something like that. And I put two tires up on the curbing or the gator there, and the car just said, "Nope, we're going into the tires over here to the left." And there was no saving that; just went right into those tires. So I got to like, after I was maybe a lap or so into the race, got to drive back into the pit, say, "Hey guys, I kind of reorganized the front end of our car a little bit here."
Ugh.
Um, Other than that, and the car finished the rest of the race. It just did not look nearly as good as when we started. I've certainly had some, 4 off spinning like a top action too, and wet grass, but luckily no. Oh, you know what? Just remind me of some car to car action I had. In a champ car race at VIR. I was arriving driving for a good buddy of mine in his beautiful E30, kind of in a pack of faster cars in champ car, going around the outside of a slower car through the left hand part of a roller coaster at VIR. So that's the downhill, pretty quick sweepers coming, down, like they call it, a roller coaster. So I think there were 3 or 4 of us faster cars kind of going around the outside of a slower car. The slower car, I don't know if he understeered or something, but kind of started tracking out mid corner. And the car in front of me just grabbed its brakes. I grabbed my brakes too and slowed down pretty well. Car behind me, unfortunately not as quick on the brakes, I guess, tapped the back of me into the car in front of me, so kind of accordioned. And fortunately, the E30 ended up a little bit shorter than it started the race. Still drivable, but man, it was such a pretty car, and now it's getting rebuilt, but it wasn't quite as pretty at the end of the day.
Yeah, I can see that. So Reed, you drew the short straw. You're going to be subjected to our Fast and Furious Storytime questions.
Oh, okay, let's do it. I'm looking forward.
We try and get to know you a little bit better and see how your car and racing and driving history has been. So, Miss Vicky, do you want to start with your seemingly favorite one?
Yes, I would. What was your first car, and what was the worst car you ever had?
See, I guess there's 2 ways to answer what was my first car. When I was 16, oh man, I was psyched about this too. I got my grandfather actually helped me get a 2001 Honda Civic EX. And this is like 2001, shortly after the original Fast and Furious came out. So I was getting a Honda Civic. It was pretty awesome. It got it secondhand. It already had, the loud Bumblebee exhaust on it and everything. So I thought that was the coolest thing when I was 16. It was a fun car. The other way, I guess, to answer that is that I have this 1960 Morgan, but it was originally my other grandfather's car that he bought in 1960. So I've grown up kind of with that car my whole life, in the garage, now in my garage. So if that kind of counts as a first car, it's a pretty cool first car. Worst car I've had, and I'm one of those guys who basically I get a car and then I drive it for 200,000 miles or until all the wheels fall off of it. So I haven't had a lot of cars over my lifetime. I would say right now, one of the cars I have had the most fun in and I really like, but at all same time, it's probably the worst car, is my Nissan 370Z currently.
Your tow vehicle.
Yeah, that one, the tow vehicle.
Well, if you stop towing with it, you might have a chance, man.
I know. No, man, when that thing is running, it's a blast. It has a good bit of power. It handles really well. I've tracked it twice, once at CMP, once at VIR. Man, the thing's dynamite on track. Just really planted, really capable, really fast. The brakes are there. And even in traffic, it's just fun I drive pretty much like a grandma most of the time. But if there's someone I need to, say, get around in traffic, it definitely lets me do that. The downsides, though, go ahead, Bill.
Oh, no.
Okay. I was going to say the downsides with that car, I think their target vehicle when they were designing the 370Z was like a 911 or something. They wanted to basically build a Porsche, but sell it for half the cost. And I think the build quality kind of shows there. After I've had it for 10 years now, the dash is all cracked, the paint on the outside all bubbling up, even though, I religiously like 3-stage wax and clay and polish it. At one point, the steering column locked, which I guess is a common problem on those. So the car is just stuck with the column locked. I couldn't start it or anything, had to get it towed. There was actually one time I was driving it back to my house and the clutch pedal, the part you step on, sheared off. So all of a sudden I go there and it's like, oh, why is the pedal on the floor, and literally on the floor, not attached to anything. And when I talked to Nissan about it, I called, I don't know, customer service or whatever you talk to. It was kind of funny. First, the lady I was speaking to, the representative, asked, oh, is it an automatic or manual? It's like, well, I'm calling about the clutch, but I get maybe you're not a car person. And then it ended up they wouldn't really warranty it because it's part of the clutch system, and they thought that maybe that was from driver error. So that was a little interesting, but it's a fun car when the clutch pedal is not falling off of the car.
I don't really know how you have a driver error on a clutch pedal, but okay.
Yeah. I guess they
Hmm.
thought if people didn't know how to drive a stick and they were slipping the clutch a bunch or something like that.
But that doesn't
But
make the pedal fall off.
yeah, you'd think.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
So, what is the car from your family that sticks out the most in your mind?
from my family, 100% this Morgan. So
That's
it's
true.
been in the family for a while. It's fun. It has a lot of character. If you don't know about those cars, they have a steel chassis, but then they have a wooden frame around the body of the car. So they always have to worry about termites and stuff like that. But it's fun. I have all these pictures from like the early '60s of my grandparents in it, and pictures of my dad's wedding cars there and everything. And now I'm sitting above my garage in my bonus room, and it's directly below. I get to smell all the oil that's leaked on the floor.
So you are a bird watcher, or were a bird
I
watcher.
used to be. I honestly, I I wouldn't consider myself a birder or a bird watcher anymore. But if there's some bird that flies by the window, I know what it is and I know what sound it makes.
So do you think that kind of brought you down the affinity of being a vet?
Yeah, I think so. I think the main thing there is I just, maybe not birds in general, but just wanted to be outside around animals and trees. And
Mm-hmm.
I think a big thing is growing up, I went to what's called a Montessori school, and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
that is geared towards being outside and really how nature can impact the education and growth of kids. And I think that got me into bird watching, got me into animals, kind of from there evolved into becoming a veterinarian. Other thing I really like about being a vet in particular, it's all problem solving and it's hands on, which is pretty much exactly, like wrenching on a car too. There's
Mm-hmm.
a problem, you have to figure out how to solve it. And yeah, a little, yeah, pretty similar there.
Oh,
Was that did you ask him what's the one thing no one knows about you that would surprise them?
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, because I wasn't
birder
there.
Yeah.
I wasn't there, so
and a
Yeah.
science guy.
science guy.
Oh yeah, science guy.
All right, so I've got one that we're going off script here. It's not a traditional Fast and Furious story time question, but what do we need to do to get Ben to work on his E46?
Oh, say I don't know. I think hopefully after this last race, there's a little bit more impetus to him getting after that E46. Either that or I just need to go over there and be like, hey Ben, let's have a beer, go in your garage, and oh look, there's a car here. Let's start wrenching on that a little bit more, buddy.
Wow.
I think we might have to do a intervention and send Vicky
I
down.
I think so. We'll have a kumbaya. Everyone get around the car.
I think so. That might work. That might work. Okay, we've got a new question we've
Oh,
never
okay.
asked before. I don't even think Vicky's read the list, so she may have missed it yet.
Mm.
But what is your race car number and why?
Oh, that's a good question.
Oh, that is a good one.
That's a great one. So, when I first started doing autocross, I used the number 86 because that was my birth year, 1986. But the first autocross I ever went to, I forgot that I registered as 86, so I put 26 on the side because I was born on the 26th of May. And I get up to a tech or something. The guy's like, "Oh, we don't have you on the list. What is this? Who are you?" And this is like, I don't know, 17-year-old me. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I really messed up." Um, so that's how that started. But I've switched my number a number of times since then. So for a little bit, I was autocrossing and daily driving a Nissan 240SX, which the chassis code was an S14.
Mm-hmm.
So then for a little bit, my number was 14 because it was hard for me to forget.
Mm-hmm.
Then recently, when I've been endurance racing with my car now, number one, I wanted a 3-digit number so no one else would have it in any other series. The second thing I was thinking about is I wanted some of the numbers reversible. So if someone else had say 999, I could make mine 969, or for Ben 666.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up landing on 989, which is what my current car number is. And probably the main reason I did that, because it's hard for me to forget, growing up when I was back in middle school, I played this cool game on PlayStation 1 called Siphon Filter, and it was made by 989 Studios. So the first thing you'd see when you turn on the TV was the 989 logo, and they'd be like 989 Studios. So that's still stuck in my head, that jingle. So that's my car now.
Very cool. Miss Vicky, what we never asked you, what race car number do you want on your race car?
I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. I don't.
Well, we
I
know
have to
there's
think
no
about
thinking
it.
involved on our podcast, so we'll come back to you later.
I'll have to think about that one. I really will.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Very well. Let's see. Do you have a car that got away? Either you sold it and wish you didn't, or you wish you bought it and you didn't.
Yeah, I do. And like I said, I haven't had too many cars. I had basically the Civic, the 240SX, and now a 370Z. It would be that 240SX. I had it. Ended up getting the 370, and the 240SX I just kept parked at my parents' house, like collecting dust there. And basically they're like, dude, this isn't going anywhere. We need this gone. So my brother's another big car guy. He helped pretty much flip it, restore it. There were some places where it had some, like fender benders and things of that nature. He helped fix those out, looked really clean, and then he ended up selling it for me. And now every day I miss it. And not only that, I'll go on something like Bring a Trailer or these forums, and I say, oh, wow, that thing's like appreciated 500% since I sold it too.
You rat bastard.
Exactly. And
did you sell it to a drifter?
so my brother sold it for me. It sounds like the guy wanted to keep it pretty stock, but I don't want to think about this, but there's probably like a 98% chance that it is wrapped around a tree somewhere, or it has like Rocket Bunny over fenders and some weird spoiler on the back and no front bumper being drifted.
It's got a 180-degree steering angle capability.
Oh, that is funny. So on my race car now, I wanted a steering limiter for it. So I ended up putting these little steering limiter clips that go on the inner tie rods, because I was turning it at full max steering lock. The tires would rub the brake ducts really bad and start shredding them. And I posted on one of the forums about looking for a steering limiter kit. And the E36 now is like the big drift car to have too, I guess. Everyone's followed me from the 240 to the E36. I got flamed so hard. Like, why would you want to limit the steering, man? You want all the angle. What are you doing? You're not even a car guy.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't figure skate my cars. Anyway.
Yeah.
Just kidding, drifting guys and girls.
Yeah, we love you all, you drift kings out there and drift queens.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's
to be
fun.
fair, Initial D is a pretty fun anime to watch. I'm not into anime really, but I've watched that whole series. It was pretty well done.
We've been told to about 10 times. So
yeah.
So for the rest of your life, if you could daily drive and race cars from one decade of the past, what decade would you choose?
The 60s. Oh, that's tough. It might be the 90s.
Yeah. They're both good.
Yeah,
they're both really good.
It's either the 60s or the 90s. So, in the 60s, you had all the classic, really the British cars, right? Or what I really like, the XKEs and Morgans and Healey's and Triumphs, all those. There's some good things coming out of Japan too, like the 2000 GT, I think is one of the most beautiful cars ever designed. And, we'll lump the 240Z in with the 60s, I guess, too, even though it was technically more of a early 70s.
That's a stretch, but okay.
Yeah, it was designed in the 60s, I bet. Right.
Killing me.
Okay. Or, you have the 90s too, where you start getting the really cool imports. Man, I still have a soft spot for Honda Civics, and the RX-7, I think one of the most pretty, more modern cars ever designed was the FD RX-7. Miatas, you start getting those, which are great daily drivers. And, well, I don't know about RX-7, but on the racetrack, those are awesome.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Let's see. what is, if you ever talk to people about what you do and they find out you're a race car driver, they always ask you the same dumb question, but we're going to ask you in a little different way.
Is it how fast have you gone?
Exactly.
Yeah.
In what car, where, and when. And just, in case things need to transpire, a lot of people have said it was Mexico.
Yeah. I go to Yeah. I'm actually going to Mexico in like 2 weeks, so maybe I can, set a new land speed record. Um, Now, is this me driving or is this me riding in a car?
You got to be driving, sir.
Okay. All right. Um, I guess it's been on track probably at, probably nothing special at VIR on the back straight, and some car I've probably gotten up to like 140 or something. So
Really?
nothing super crazy. I think when I was a dumb 16-year-old, I probably probably wink wink tried to see how fast my Civic could go, and I probably got up to a good 117 miles an hour or so once. Um,
You've heard,
but
it was a rumor.
Yeah, it's a rumor. There, no evidence of that. So
I don't know what you're talking about.
exactly.
So wait, you went fastest at VIR and you've done Road Atlanta.
I've done Road Atlanta in an E30. I've done VIR in my Z.
Okay.
So
Okay. I was going to say, because if you can't get the terminal velocity on the back stretch at Road Atlanta, you're doing something wrong.
Well, I think the last time I raced at Road Atlanta, maybe the only time we were in our E30, we were also hitting the speed limiter on it. So, you're coming down the hill on the back straight, and all of a sudden the car just die on you for a little bit. So that was no bueno.
Yeah. It did what? Say that again. I want to hear that again.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sounds like all our cars right now.
Yeah. Right now. Yeah, all of our cars are going at once. Joy. So, let me see.
So I know one question you guys have asked before on the Garage Heroes in Training podcast is if you're on the desert island, what car would you want?
Coming.
Oh, that was coming. Okay, no, go ahead. Start it now.
No, well,
all right.
So I've thought about this.
All right.
It's an amphi car.
Oh, you want to go amphibious? Okay.
Yeah, so I can get off the island, go get a different car. Yeah.
Most people like us. You got 4 more cars though.
Oh wait, I get multiple cars. Okay.
Yeah, you get 5 cars.
Oh man. Oh, I'm skipping 2 of some other cool questions, but so I guess it'd be a McLaren F1, a Jaguar XJ13, Toyota 2000 GT.
He's done his research,
and
I'm surprised he listens.
Maybe like an FJ40 or something. Needs some sort of cool truck.
Really? Okay, you got one more.
Oh, with the Amphicar?
Yeah.
Okay. Gosh, I don't know. You know what? I might go with an EV or something to commute on my little desert island in.
All right, very well. I mean, it's not a taco truck, but it's not a bad answer. Not a bad answer.
Not bad. Yeah.
Not bad.
So, what car would you wipe away from history? What was the worst car you think there was ever? Whether it be style, driving, just total embarrassment.
Ooh, that is a good one. So here's one thing. I really think that the Toyota Prius is a wonderful car. Well built, economical, inexpensive, well engineered. It was, the first hybrid, not really the first hybrid, but the first hybrid to really catch on. But why are they all going so slow when I'm behind them? Can I wipe the Prius drivers off the earth?
You're actually the second person who wants to take out Prius drivers.
Yeah, I think the answer to that. There have been some pretty bad cars that stick out to me. I think the PT Cruiser is one of those.
PT Cruisers are pretty embarrassing.
The SSR, I think, is one of those. The Chevy, the Pontiac Aztec, I think would be on the list. But since it was in Breaking Bad and Walter White had one, it kind of gets it off the list a little bit. So I think I'm going to go with the smart car, the smart 4.2.
Okay.
And my reasoning behind that is I think the people who get that, at least in the United States, get it so that they can seem like, they're getting good gas mileage. They maybe care about the environment some. They want something a little bit quirky, but, it's like I think they're made by Mercedes, right? The engine in those. So I'm assuming the upkeep's a little bit more on them. They have no power, so they can't really merge. You can't fit anything in them. So why not just get a Prius? It seems like if you're going to get that, you should get a Prius. And I say in the United States, because yeah, I get if you live over in Europe where parking's at a premium and you need a little like K car or something, yeah, get a smart car, but makes no sense around here at least.
Well, they're trying to look smart, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So, what would be your dream car to build a race car from?
I think a lot of people from my generation would say a McLaren F1, and I think I might be one of those people, but I think it would be really cool to build a Morgan and do a race car. Um,
Are you going to have 3 wheels or 4 wheels?
for
Okay.
from my understanding, I've never been in one of the three wheelers, but if you're driving that and there's a pothole, most cars you can straddle it. But in the three wheeler, you just have to pick, am I going to feel this in the front of the car or the back of the car?
Pretty much. Unless you're really quick with the steering. But...
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
What is your favorite track so far?
I'm trying to think of a way to not say VIR because that's my home track and it seems like just an easy answer, but it's definitely VIR.
Oh.
I think Barber is a wonderful track too for driving and just really cool grounds there with all the sculptures. And I missed out going to the museum while I was there. Really want to do that too, and VIR just kind of feels like home for me.
Mm-hmm. Where would your ultimate road trip be from and to, and in what car would you want to do it?
Let's see. There's some really good driving roads in the mountains of North Carolina besides the Tail of the Dragon, which I've never actually driven on. I would have to say through backcountry or out in the country in Europe, maybe through some mountains, northern Italy, Alps, something cool like that. Switzerland, exactly.
The mountains be calling.
Exactly. And
the speed cameras suck though.
I'm gonna say maybe in something kind of fun but unique, like I'm gonna go with the Morgan Aero 8. That might be fun.
Other companies make cars besides Morgan. I'm just saying.
Let's I was thinking of saying like a Jaguar XJ13, but I already mentioned that one, I think, or maybe an E-Type.
E-Type, F-Type, not bad.
Yeah.
Okay. Jennifer wasn't able to make it tonight, but in honor of her, we get to do her favorite question.
Ooh.
What is your favorite car movie or car from a movie of all time?
Oh man, that is a good one. I think my favorite car movie is Grand Prix, which is what, 1966, won some Oscars. You guys have seen that movie?
Yes.
Yeah,
one of us has.
Yeah, I think that is probably my favorite car movie. Just for the cinematography is wonderful, and they followed around the actual F1 season. And it sounds like they set up before the F1 race with F2 cars with F1 bodies on them, if I recall, and they got all the drivers, the actors like James Garner to actually drive these cars around the track. He was kind of into cars himself, so we could do that. Not only that, the camera car was a GT40, with cameras mounted on it. So that was just awesome. And I mean, there's the opening scene. They show an entire lap mounted on the nose of the car going around Monaco at speed. So I think that's wonderful. Close second might be the original Italian Job.
The original minis.
Yeah, with the original minis and Michael Caine. Yeah. Rush is really good too. That's a great one. And Senna.
It is.
But yeah.
So, what was your most memorable car breakdown?
Not most recent.
Yeah. I would say this is probably in my 240SX, driving back from the airport in Charlotte. Blew the top radiator outlet off. It's a plastic end tank on there. So I'm stranded on the side of the road and sitting there, hood popped, like steam pouring out. Not really in the nicest area in Charlotte either. And like as I'm sitting there driving by, obviously in need of help, like probably 4 or 5 cops ended up driving by. Not a single one stopped to see if I could use a hand. It's like, come on, guys.
Yeah. Help the poor.
Exactly. Yeah, it was either that or driving my Z back without a clutch pedal from Shelby, North Carolina to Charlotte, North Carolina, which is, I don't know, 30 miles or something.
Yeah, I was going to say that's not terrible. But,
Yeah.
well, traffic would be terrible if it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Too. We have a listener who's late to coming on the podcast. He says he has a question, and he's telling me I have to ask. It is so. Jeremy, Hammond, May, Chris, Matt, other.
I think I'm gonna have to go with May. And no, he just seems like the most. I certainly like Top Gear and Grand Tour, but a lot of these other shows that May has done are great. Like he's had a cooking one, he's had like Our Man in Italy and Our Man in Japan.
Did he have a railroad one too? Or?
Yeah, I believe so. Another really good guy, I guess I'd have to say, tied with him is Ewan McGregor.
Mhm.
Yeah.
For the long way round, long way down, long way up.
Yep. He seems like a good guy.
Yeah.
All right. So, do you remember when you were a kid and used to play the claw game?
Yeah.
Okay.
I never won at that. I was bad at it.
Well, this time you're going to win because you're going to have a claw, and you're going to be able to grab one of your fellow racers by the helmet and pull them out of their car, and you get to go jump in that car. It's got to be a car you've raced against in the past or racing against now. Which car and what track?
That is a toughie.
You can do it more than once. I mean, it's your claw game.
You know what? I'm going to pull my teammate Hans Flommer out of his E46 spec car because it is the cleanest build that I have been around. It is just a meticulous build. I'm going to pull him out of there and I'm going to jump in that car and I am going to compete against my car at VIR. See how they stack up. I think they'd be pretty similar lap times.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay. Very well.
So, I mean, what areas of driving and or racing are you working on in the off season? What do you do?
I do a good bit of iRacing, which I don't know if that. I think that has actually helped. Specifically, one thing that has gotten me a lot more comfortable with is left foot braking and trail braking, and really being able to see running. In iRacing, they have a nice time gain, time lost bar that you can kind of visualize. And it has really taught me a good bit about, oh, wow, if I can do this one thing slightly different, I just picked up half a second my lap time right there. One thing I think I need to work on track more is I am not an assertive driver when it comes to traffic, and I will sit there and wait for other people to kind of work their stuff out before I'm not one to force my way through anything because I don't want to scratch anything up,
Yeah.
So I think I have the skill set and the ability to be a little bit more competitive, I guess, when it comes to that, if you want to call it competitiveness, but I just don't have the balls to do it.
Yeah, it's a personality thing sometimes too.
Yeah, so that's what iRacing with the AI turned on is for. It's like, I got you. Enjoy that wall, buddy.
I don't have to fix any scratches.
Exactly. Yeah, that was a nice Ferrari.
All right, so you're at a track. What is your favorite thing to order? First thing that comes to mind.
Are we talking food?
Food.
Oh man, this is a kind of a touchy subject. The last time I went to VIR, their barbecue wasn't on the menu. They used to have some really good barbecue there.
Okay.
So it's probably that. And honestly, the thing I probably order the most is Gatorade or water. But that
it could be near the track. It doesn't have to be on track.
And this, I guess, to specify, is this while the track is hot, or is beer an option too?
It could be after track, could be off track, post race, anywhere.
I guess I'm probably trying to find a nice ale or IPA or something then, man.
Any particular place near a track that you'd recommend for people visiting said track?
At Virginia International Raceway, if I recall, not at the Pagoda, the grill there, but I have had some local beers served at VIR. Maybe it was at their restaurant. You know, they have a whole restaurant and everything at the track too, which is pretty nifty.
We haven't been there yet. We're still trying.
Do it, do it.
We're trying.
Free
Yeah,
place to stay near the track here in Raleigh.
We've been trying
so-
to get there. It hasn't really worked out for us.
It's tough because most of our team is either works with the school systems or has kids in school. So we
Okay,
really
yeah.
have to do the 2 months or so in between.
Right.
And
I mean, from what I've heard, teachers just work from like 8 to 3. Then at 3 o'clock, they don't really do anything, right? They have plenty of time off.
Nothing.
Yeah,
Nothing,
exactly.
right?
Exactly.
It's easy. It's easy. No problem. I don't know what they're complaining about.
Yeah, right.
That's why they make the big bucks too. Yeah.
Exactly. That's why they have all these race cars, right?
Mhm. Sure.
So, what do you think is one of your weaknesses behind the wheel? And
This-
strengths.
and strengths. I think unlike James Hunt, I do not have big balls when I'm on track. So I think that's one thing. I think too, there's plenty of times, and I think this is a mental block, where I know, oh, if I brake at the 2, my car will be just fine. But I'm gonna brake at the 2.5 or 3.
Right.
Things like that, basically. And I think part of that is I built this car myself for the most part, and I don't trust myself when it comes to stuff like that. So
Yeah, we understand.
but at the same time, I think there's some strengths to that too, because say if your brakes do fail going into turn 14 at CMP, you don't end up in the wall, right? The sand gets you a little bit there. And for the most part, I feel like I'm a fairly safe driver because of that, especially around traffic.
Right.
Instead of forcing myself 3 wide in a place I don't want to be, or quote dive bombing someone, I might just wait till after the turn to pass them.
So do you have a favorite turn so far, and any tips for going through it as best you know?
And again, I have most of my experience at VIR, and I'm trying to think of tracks other than that now.
You can do VIR. Ben does
I
VIR all the
honestly,
time.
there are a lot of different lines, and I feel like in turn 3 at VIR, and that's just a really fun turn for me. I think that's the third turn on the track.
And they call it turn
NASCAR,
3, right?
NASCAR.
Okay.
It's a left hand. At least when I have been racing other guys, a lot of people over slow for that turn, or maybe not track out all the way, or they're different lines through it. So I think that's a fun way to fun corner there to get some guys in, and there's some runoff too, so it's always good to have.
So Reed, we've been joined by someone, and we were going to get a little field report from this past week's festivities.
Let's do it. Yeah.
So
right. Captain's log supplemental.
So Miss Vicky.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember when we were watching those WRL events and some of those grid life events where you used to see the in-car video, and it had like the cameras seeing front and back, but it also could see all the telemetry and everything that was going on? Most of the ones that we liked were taken by the Sentinel system. Remember James came on our podcast earlier?
Right.
We have no excuse since he lent us one for trial and demonstration purposes. We should actually probably put that in one of our cars. Maybe 2.
I really think we should.
I think we should.
I know.
Because then we'd look like the immature endurance racing team that we are. Oh, wait, I mispronounced that, didn't I? Sorry, my bad. We could
So what does the
have,
Sentinel system do?
we could have 3 cameras with picture-in-picture. We could have, if we ever get the AIM system to work, open invitation to anybody from AIM to come on and give us a little bit of love. We need some help. And then we could have all our telemetry on there. And then we can have it streamed live into the paddock or around the world to our millions of fans. We're apparently very popular in Kenya right now. Don't know why, but that's fine. And it can integrate all the available race statistics from like Race Hero and everything. So we could actually see how we're doing on video. We wouldn't even have to carry around our phone anymore. Live.
I love it.
So Reed, we've been joined by someone, and we were going to get a little field report
Oh
from
boy.
this past
Oh
week's
gosh. Okay, let's do
festivities.
it. Yeah.
So
Right.
rumor has it, Dominated with Dawson with Devin Dawson was racing with you at the Lucky Dog, we miss you, Kathy, event at CMP, the second one of the year. What were you guys racing in? Welcome to the podcast, Ben, by the way.
Well, and I don't know if it
Hello.
was racing as much as it was truly dominating too, until we did.
Ben, were you dominating?
We did do a little bit of dominating. We struck a little bit of fear.
So
We
And
struck
then-
a lot-
and
we-
then
we
what
struck a
happened?
lot- We struck a lot of fear, and then we kept breaking. We kept breaking
Yeah.
during the weekend. But we had a car that was really good for the event. And we were, I believe, we had the fastest race lap outside of an exhibition car that Grassroots Motorsports brought. So that was pretty cool to be near the top of the rankings with the magnificent machine that Reed put together. Which Reed, what were we racing?
We were racing it. I said it once so far, but it's a BMW E36 M3, basically a stock motor, but it's a really stout motor from the factory. Has some suspension goodies and stuff on it, and a big wang on the back and a plywood splitter on the front.
any issues with the prep or getting to the track, or did everything go pretty much as planned?
I think everything went as planned with the prep. We had raced it, was it June that we were at?
Yeah,
At AER, and it did pretty well for that race, minus a
Yeah.
steering rack issue, but ended up podiuming in that race and got it home and said, "Oh well, I'll put a new steering rack in there. Everything else looks good." So it's just pretty much new fluids and brake juice in it, and loaded up and came down to CMP.
Cool. I got the most surprising text, Miss Vicky.
Yo, did you?
I
And what
did.
was it?
I got a text. It came from this guy. I don't know. You might know him. We'll let you guess who it was. And the person said that they had done a track walk. A track walk.
Ooh. Was there such track walk taking place?
I believe that there was a physical track walk taking place. It seems to be a rarity in their driving career. Mr. Dawson, would you like to confirm or deny that this track walk took place?
Yeah, it's crazy. Typically, I am too lazy and already know what's going on to do a track walk. But I've done one at CMP before with a racer who had never been there before. And this time we just kind of all had a chance to get out there and walk around there drinking a beer and just checking out the track. Because a couple of our drivers hadn't been there very recently or had much time there. So since we had the chance to do it, I was like, all right, twist my arm. So I got out there. Got out there. We walked around, talked about where we want to be, kind of walked around the track, standing where we want the car to be at a certain place, and kind of talking about where we like to hook it in here for this corner and huck it out there for that other corner.
Reed, did you attend said track walk?
I sure did.
Did you learn anything?
It was fun to see the pavement there at CMP. I don't think I'd walked the track previously, but they repaved it like a year and a half ago or something, Ben.
Mhm.
Yeah,
that was a lot of
something like
fun.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you go ahead,
ahead.
sir.
you read. You go ahead, Reed.
Okay.
This is what happens when you have too many people on the podcast at one time. It's part of the fun.
I mean, it's just awesome to see, how much you can really up close see what the curbing looks like. You can really tell, oh, let me hit it at this spot, not this spot. It's a little flatter here. I think gives you good heads up. Also, you at CMP you get to look for fire ants and yellow jackets and hornets. Ben, do you know anything about these insects they have there?
So luckily I didn't encounter any hornets, but I got down there close to the time where I would need to put my fire suit on and because you better shake that thing out, man. It's full of fire ants. And sure enough, my red fire suit did have a bunch of fire ants all in it. So that was very nice. Thank you, Reed.
But walking by one of the flag stations too, just looking over at it.
Yeah. That's right. Because we were like, we never really get a chance to go into the flag stations because none of us have volunteered to do that or anything before yet.
Are you allowed to say that we went into one, Ben, or is that like, oh, you're not supposed to go in there?
There was no sign posted that said "Don't enter this little gazebo." And check,
There you go.
and
There you
check
go.
all around. So it's never. No, we went in one, and it was just like can after can of Raid and Hornet spray, that kind of thing.
Oh,
And then
jeez.
the seat was like a locker. It was like an outhouse seat with no hole, but it was a locker. I could see it had a little hasp on it. So I was like, "What's in here?" I was like, "What could be in here?" Like, it was pretty morbid. I don't know. I did that, but I was like, "Let me just pop up and see what's in this in the seat section." And who wants to guess what it was?
Oh, yeah.
Was it a body?
It was not a body.
Cooler.
No, more cans of insect spray, like pest spray. So then that one must have probably been the most cursed track corner station in the world.
Oh, there's a few of them around that track. So
Yeah. There was one where there used to be a station right before the King, and I believe somebody in the Lemons race like wiped it out. That people had to like dive for the bushes that were in the station, and I believe the car hit the porta potty and got soaked with porta potty juices and stuff. That's just a legend I hear. But now it's just a mound of sand, and then up above it, kind of a leveled off little plateau, is an easy up. So I guess that's the corner station there now. Is that right, Reed? Am I saying that right?
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, it looked like an easy up, kind of up on the berm up there, like almost in the woods.
Yeah, the berm.
Yeah, I believe that is the case. But
there's also video of this event out there that you can find. We're probably not going to put it in the show notes, but you can find this.
nope, not going to put it in.
There's value in a track walk, and for sure, it's always nice to kind of do it if there's nothing else going on. It was nice to have a car that was so squared away. Thank you, Reed, to where we could even think about messing around doing something as trivial and fanciful as a track walk.
Yeah, it was very squared away for like 75% of the weekend.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I think that's over promising, but we'll get to that shortly.
Yeah. All right.
Did you guys have any goals going in? How do you think you were going to go and things you were going to do? And
go ahead, Reed.
No, go Ben. That's all you, buddy.
I'm not going to be responsible.
We went into the race weekend pretty confident because we had kind of about the pace of the car, because we had done so well in the middle category, speed category of AER a couple months before. We had a car that was fast enough to win that race. Got caught out by a lightning caution. Didn't have all of our pit stops done in the car that we were racing had. So we were pretty close on that one, and we're really excited about it. So we hoped that same kind of pace would be good for the Lucky Dog field, and to the point where we were hoping that we wouldn't have brought too much car. But luckily, a lot of cool cars showed up, and we didn't have to worry about being too fast or being the fastest. But that was kind of something we thought about. So we went into it thinking it was going to be a weekend where we had a fairly good shot at being competitive, and we assumed that we'd end up in the fastest of the classes. And I was basing this on what I had seen the year before there at that the same event. So that was kind of what we were thinking. Is we were pretty happy with our results from AER and how the group had got together then, and had most of the same drivers again for this event. So we had felt confident about the driver squad. And that turned out to be true. Spoiler alert. We were all within a very tight delta of fastest laps, which is what I've always wanted my entire endurance racing career. I would say this is the fastest, average squad of guys I've gotten to drive with before. And that was one of the most exciting things about the race weekend for me. But back to before spoilers, we just went in confident and excited about the race. And then we saw that the field was going to be, 60 cars. We got even more excited. Some of the cars looked like they would be faster than us or great to race with, which is what we wanted. I don't think any of us wanted to go out there and be the fastest necessarily. We wanted a bunch of good competition, and we got it. It was a great field. I mean, I would have been ecstatic about it being half that size, but 60 cars out there was great. It was a lot of fun. I mean, I was always, every lap I was working, passing somebody. It was pretty cool.
How did your Saturday go?
Well, our Saturday went real well. Our Friday getting the car tacked and all that stuff was uneventful, so not even really worth bringing that up. But that did have to happen before we could have a Saturday.
Did Lucky Dog have qualifying Friday?
Yeah. So no, they didn't
Saturday
do Friday.
morning. Yeah.
it was supposed to be like a 40-minute session and then like 10 minutes to get to grid and start the race. And so I think since the field was so big, I don't know if they did this out west, but since the field was as large as it was, they had said they were going to split the qualifying into two 20-minute segments. First segment for faster cars, second segment for slower cars. What happened next, Reed?
Yeah, so we figured we would be one of the quote faster cars. So got out there and let's see, oh my gosh, I always forgot. Was it Hans out there setting quali? Yeah, so
That's right.
Hans went out there, qualified with some banger laps. I think one of the best things is he was driving. I think we were probably running 149s or so, 150s.
I think we had done a
that point.
150. Yeah, we had done a 150, which is a pretty good time out there. It's fine, nothing bad about that.
Yeah, nothing bad. And basically got on the radio with Hans, and I guess Hans was saying, "What time do you want me to run?" And I was like, "Oh no, you're good. He's like, "No, Reed, what time should I run?" I said, "How about a 148?" And then the next lap, he turned like a 148.0 or something, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was right on the money. He did exactly what we knew.
Which is awesome to have that. So we ended up qualifying in that, I guess it was like P2 or P3, basically 1 or 2 right behind this exhibition class V6 swap Miata that GRM had there. That was just a beautiful car.
Yeah, it was.
So did that. We came back in because that was the first 20-minute qualifying for the quote faster cars. Then they were having all the quote slower cars out there. They started gridding them up to have them go out and run their times. And there were some pretty quick looking cars in there too that I think had made the first qualifying thing. So, oh, that car has a lot of motor on me, weighs less than me. We better watch out for them. But as we were coming off track for the first qualifying session, there was a full course yellow. I think someone had broken down out there. So
somebody broke down with a big cleanup.
Yeah. So it kind of closed the track. And actually the second half of the qualifying cars, the quote slower cars going out there for their 20-minute session had to abort, so they didn't get to qualify.
Yeah, and it really it wasn't the second half of the field. A lot of people failed or just chose not to designate themselves in their car as the faster people. And we were all jacked up about how our qualifying had gone, because we were pretty happy with it. We kind of needed to we wanted to either, end up being the first car on the track or the third car. To us, that's the best place to be. I'd rather start third than second, just get so hopefully follow the leader through on the inside and fight it out with that person. So we were pretty excited about that. So I went somewhere and was walking back while the second group was lining up, and they were lined up all the way down the pit lane at CMP and then around the corner. I was like, oh my God, it's about to be rumble in the jungle. And I don't mean they weren't spaced out. They were nose to tail lined up like that. Most of the cars were trying to go out and be in the slow group, which turned out good for us. I mean, ultimately, we went out there with a smaller group and had cleaner traffic. And that group, while it would have been fun to go out in the larger of the two groups, just from a getting to, car through traffic standpoint, that's not what you're trying to do when you're qualifying. You're hoping for some clean track all by yourself to put down a representative time. So we feel like we ended up doing a pretty good job of qualifying. And so that was kind of the first thing we had to knock off on Friday, aside from the mandatory drivers meeting at which Kathy took a random roll to make sure people were out there that was supposed to be there, and all the drivers, and I think just at least all the drivers from every team had to be there. I guess if you have ancillary people, they don't necessarily have to come, but I think that was a really smart way to make sure everybody attends the drivers meeting and is familiar with the particular rules for that race that day.
Yeah, that's great that Lucky Dog does that. Awesome group to run with too, man.
Absolutely.
So how did Saturday progress? I mean, you guys look like you either qualified second or third. I can't quite tell because it's not.
I think
cooperating.
we were second among classified cars. Third starting
overall
behind the exhibition car, and then the car that qualified first, which was going to be starting on the outside row during the 2-wide start, and then
next to a flying moose. If I read my race
no
monitor.
way.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't remember who we were next to starting, but that sounds likely.
I think we were supposed to maybe start there, but we were getting our driver, I guess, belted in the car, squared away, and a few cars had already gone out to grid on Saturday, so we kind of missed where we're supposed to be in line. I think we started P6 or something, like a little bit off from where our qualifying position was.
But yeah, that was a little funny because everybody had to kind of rush to go to their cars, and then all of a sudden cars just start driving out from where they were stopped, and not with anybody, because at least in AER it's pretty tightly controlled. Like, you go now, you pull out now. There's somebody kind of telling every car when to go. And Lucky Dog, it is a lot more like, I feel ready, I'm running up there. So that kind of messed up. Like, what's the point of qualifying if you're just gonna have everybody kind of run up when they're ready? But we still qualified near where we were supposed to. I think it was better organized the second day.
Mm-hmm. So Saturday got a little bit of a hiccup on the start. What? How did they go? It's a 8-hour day, I think, on Saturday.
I think it
Seven.
was seven.
Seven?
Both,
Yeah, okay.
both days were 7. Yeah, both were 7-hour days, and I think Callan got a good start. He's a really good racer. Like all the group, aside from me, are and they he what was his deal? I think he spun pretty early on. He spun in somebody's juices.
Oh yeah, that's right. I think in like turn 1 or turn 3.
Yeah, so it was a deal where he went through there and saw the car ahead of him getting squirrely. He got squirrely and spun out. Had to get back on. And saw 2 or 3 cars behind him also having a problem. So everybody kind of went through somebody's oil slick or something and then spun out. So he had to rejoin traffic and kind of start fighting his way back up from mid pack. And we were making pretty good progress. And then we started seeing smoke come out of the car. And could he hear whine or did
I think he started hearing a whine. I think after the spin, since it was right at the beginning, pretty much the whole grid went by him. So I think we dropped from like 6th or something down to like 55th or something like that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we went all the way back to the end, to the end of the field. But yeah, he fought his way back. He fought his way back up pretty quickly, and I guess we eventually realized we needed to bring him in and deal with the power steering pump because he was getting no traction. He was losing traction in the corners because of the power steering fluid coming back, seeping back from the pump and getting on his rear tires was really making him break traction. So you can't keep doing that.
Yeah. So, was that before or after you got in the car though? Because I know you had some power steering fluid on the brakes at some point in that.
Oh no, that was he was losing traction before I ever got in the car. I got in the car and drove with no power steering my first time in the car.
Okay, gotcha. So so on Callan's stint, I guess he started having some slipping at the back of the car. Came in and there was fluid from the power steering all over his back tires and everything there. Power steering pump decided it was working well, but the rack started leaking. So we ended up bypassing the rack. Luckily, having had a few power steering issues in the past, I had packed a shorter serpentine belt to pretty much bypass the power steering pump. Right. So I threw that on there and got the car back out. I think we were down, we had gained up some spots before that happened, then down back into the 50s, got Ben in the car without power steering.
Yeah, I went out and drove for a while with no power steering. I think we had 2 different ratio racks just because there were so many different racks involved in the story. But the ratio on the rack I drove was not as tight as the one we ended up with on Sunday. So I'm not a scientist or a math person, so I don't know what it is, a smaller or larger ratio. But the one that had more turns lock to lock was easier to drive, and that's the one we had in there on Saturday. And so I was out there the whole time like, that's not that bad. I could do this, all day if I needed to. You know what I'm saying, on the radio. So I was out there and I was just nobody ever passed me the whole weekend, I don't think, except for when I finally broke down. But I'm out there just making hay, passing all these kind of people. We were already taking like a 45-minute break, so we weren't racing anybody, you know what I mean? But we still wanted to run. We still wanted to run the car and have fun. This that was leading the race. That driver in the car at the same time I was out there right after lunch. That guy tried to murder me repeatedly, like trying to drive me. I was like, am I at the dirt track? Is this Saturday night? Like, what is happening here? Never got a flag, never anything. But the guy really did try to end my life multiple times. That's
jeez.
But the whole time, like, also, I'm not really racing this guy for position, but I'm way faster than they were.
6.5 hours later.
So like I was eventually going to pass this person, but like every move they pulled, I was just like, whoa, wow. And eventually I put him down and tried. This is an example of bad racecraft in a fast car. Like this person that was driving that car would repeatedly be next to me and let themselves get stuck behind a slower car. But then once the driver would realize it, they would try to just jerk the car right over to where I was. Like, I wish I was there, but you're there. They didn't care. They would just come on over. So anyway, I always knew it was coming. I could see that they were going to do it. But eventually I stuffed that car behind a slower car and went on. But it was mostly really good driving that I saw when I was out there. What about you, Reed?
Yeah, honestly, I was really impressed with that many cars on a smallish track
Yeah.
like CMP. And having recently watched videos of some other series racing at VIR and CMP, things of that nature, and even the AER race, I was expecting a lot more yellows, a lot more black flags. It was super clean out there the whole weekend. There was hardly
Yeah.
any car to car contact. There was hardly any yellow flag too. So I
True.
think at one of these races, I think it was what WRL at VIR. It sounds like, man, a good proportion of their race a few weekends ago was under yellow or red.
Yeah.
And this is
Yeah,
nothing like that.
Exactly right. Yeah.
That was not a good weekend.
Mm-mm.
No.
Yeah, I thought the driving was overall very clean. In that same stint that we're talking about, I guess we figured out that it was probably power steering fluid contaminated our brake pads. I felt okay with the brakes. They're all during the first part of that stint when I was out there driving and passing a lot of people, and I felt okay with the brakes. I guess I didn't realize they weren't exactly where they needed to be because we run some pads that I don't really feel the hit on these pads. I just know that they're slowing me down. It's just a brand that it doesn't really connect with me. But it's the same brand that all the BMW folks really love. So if you know what you're talking about, you'll know what I'm talking about.
I believe I do.
They feel pretty numb to me. They always have. Like, I've always been fine with the amount of stopping they do, but then you just don't really feel that satisfying hit when they really clamp on. So anyway,
and I think part of that is just my car too. I think the E36M, at least, the brake feel is just numb on those cars
Yeah.
from what I've been able to tell. But sorry, Ben, continue.
Well, no, yeah, you're right. So that's kind of the situation I was in with the brakes, and I come out of the kink in the following little straightaway are the fastest parts of that track, and you take this high speed kink right after you shift into your highest gear. You take this thing flat or almost flat. In our case, I was doing like a little confidence breathe just to kind of reweight the car a little bit, just hopefully I'd have some bite on the way out. But almost flat there. So that's kind of and it's also a tight left turn at the end of that. So you got to do some pretty heavy braking once you start your braking. And it's also a great place to pass. If you come out of the kink and there's somebody slower, you usually roll right by it and be on the inside for that left turn. So that's what I was trying to do. And I go in there with this Miata, and I was like, whoa, he's way over slowing for the corner. But also I was like, I really feel like I'm having to work pretty hard to get the car slowed down and turned here too. But I was out of phase. I'm like, what is happening here? So the first time that happened, I didn't quite connect that, oh crap, this thing's not braking like it's supposed to here in this one spot. Everywhere else on track, it seemed okay, but that's the heaviest braking moment on the track. So I came around another time through the kink and was just going to do my same usual routine of braking at the same spot and trying to catch people on the inside again. And I was in there with this, I was trying to follow this Boxster in to pass a Miata so we're on the inside, the Miata was going to be on the outside, and I just cannot stop. I'm just flying. Everybody else is slowing down. I'm not slowing down. And I just roll and center punch this box through the door with no brakes. I mean, it completely destroyed his door. I think it kind of damaged the frames of the door on either side too. But I felt really bad about it. I went and found the guy. But that's when I realized, like, whoa, these brakes were letting me down. When we took the pads off and put fresh rotors on and put new fluid in, we didn't see obvious problems there. There wasn't a bunch of air in the lines when we bled the brakes out. There was no obvious smoking gun, but something happened where I didn't have all the brakes I should have. So I ended up hitting that guy. I brought myself in, but here's how the self-reporting system and Lucky Dog works for me. If you like that part of the race report, I found it pretty interesting because they always talk about how it's going to work. If you self-report, here's what happens. Because in lemons, there may or may not be that much benefit to self-reporting, but Lucky Dog really sells it. And here's how that sales pitch actually turned out in real life for me. I hit that dude, and I'm on the radio immediately with Reed saying, hey, and it was in a place in the track where everybody's watching you do stuff anyway. So I'm sure everybody looked over there and heard the crunch or whatever. So I'm talking to Reed, telling him what happened. I'm coming in right now. I'm going to come in and tell him what happened. And the Boxster was ahead of me. So they got to the person at the front and the doghouse.
Doghouse.
Got to the doghouse first. And so they're talking to the official. I see the guy's hands waving in the car. And it says, so I pull up right behind the guy, and I'm trying to wave out the window to get this guy Eric's attention to come back and talk to me. I was like, come here, come talk to me. Because they had said, if you come in and self-report, and especially if it's your fault, and you can let us know that the other car can go, it's not their fault. They'll get their lap back, and they'll get to keep racing and not lose any time. And so I'm trying to make sure I get Mr. Boxster back out there, because I've also I saw the damage as I did it. I'm like, he can keep driving. So the car's fine. So it turned out, so they send him on his way. The guy comes back and talks to me. And I tell him everything about what happened. Here's what's going on. And he goes, okay, cool. You can go right back out. That was it. There was no wait here this amount of time. There was no real penalty for what I had done because I came in and said, hey, honestly, here's what happened. It's not that guy's fault. It was a failure on our part. So that guy's not involved. It's probably mechanical failure. But still, the guy was like, okay, cool, go back out. I was like, the part about the brake failure, I'm going to go back into the pits and we're going to work on that first before I go back out. But I was really appreciative of the fact that they were like, if you come in and deal with the situation honestly, if your car's in good shape, they would let you back out, which I thought was, fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yep. I think that does a lot to drive good behavior. Is you have a problem, come in, deal with it right then. The person who's not the offending party can get on with their day without losing anything, and you might be able to get out without having to sit there a long time, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's what Eric meant was, take care of it. You don't have a penalty. Just when you're done, go.
Totally. Yeah, totally. So no, he was literally. It's not the Eric you're thinking about. Maybe the other Eric. But this dude was just like, yeah, head on back out. I'm like, well, I'm gonna head on back in, but then we will head on back out.
I'll head out later.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is the part of the time where we get to talk about how mechanically excellent a couple of my teammates are. So Hans and Reed have been in and out of this car, the front end, doing steering racks more times than they want to. But we've got this fancy bumper with a splitter on it. The Reed's got a really slick routine down for 4 bolts, pop, 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 pops the whole nose part of the car off, and then that gives them access to the stuff they needed to do. So that's what we were doing. We were going to keep driving the car with no power steering while Hans went out and got a rack. And the idea was, as soon as he got back, we're going to, before he got back, we're going to bring the car in, let it cool down, so we could do the work during Saturday while the sun was still up, and hopefully be ready to race Sunday. So all this is going on. I hit that guy. I bring it in, and it's about time to let stuff cool down for Hans to get back so they can do the install. So that's kind of how most of our day went on Saturday. These guys got back, did an excellent job mechanically of popping the new stuff back together. Meanwhile, did all the brakes. Put new rotors on, flush the fluids. I think maybe no new pads, Reed?
I put new pads on the front just because they were a little worn. Rears I didn't touch. I bled them. I actually took the pads out, looked at them. They looked like brake pads, so I put them back on.
Right. So we went out with some pretty fresh brakes and a new steering rack, and then for some reason, after I'd slammed into this Porsche, after all that, they sent me back out to run like the last half hour, 20 minutes, just to make sure the car was working. And it's always nice to take the checker when you can, right?
Right.
Yeah, always. Even if it doesn't matter.
And what happened after the race, Ben? Did someone come talk to you?
What? Ben.
Ben got sent to the principal's office.
Well, no, so went back out with everything fresh, power steering working. The car felt like a dream. It felt fine with no power steering, but it felt like a cream dream with all this stuff working the way it's supposed to. So I went out, set fastest lap of the race, our fastest lap of the day, which Hans was going to eventually beat by a few tenths the next day. But we felt pretty good. We ended up the day thinking like, oh yeah, we got something to take to the track tomorrow, and hopefully do something with everybody if we can. And so Reed, which person are you talking about? Which car did this person drive?
Well, I think the car's name is pronounced.
There are a couple of funny stories from people coming to talk to me to tell me things that I didn't expect to hear. But this one, so the guy with the Dodge Stratus who repeatedly tried to murder me, that guy, because let's go back. I got out of the car after the guy with the Stratus who tried to kill me. Like, he was the guy that was the leader, but I was easily going to pass him. But he kept trying to run me off the road, slam the door, block me, every dirty driving move you could do. So I get out of the car and I'm like, hey, I'm going to find where that Stratus is pitted. I'm going to go find those people. I'm going to say, hey, who the hell was driving this car after lunch? Like, I was mad. I was like, I'm going to rip this guy's throat out. I'm going to stomp his guts in. I was pretty mad about it. I like to say a lot of stuff. I wasn't really going to do that, but I was just like, I can't believe the way this guy was doing on track. Like, I really wasn't going to go find him, but I was mad. Like, the team were like, wow, you're mad. I'm like, yeah, he did attempt to end my life several times. I mean, the whole time I was always in my typical state of, I always say I'll put the car where it could possibly be at risk, but I'm also ready to back it out. So I was trying to put it in there to make the pass, but every time I could see it start to heave my way, I would just, ease back out of it. So I was in charge of what was happening the whole time. So it wasn't that big a deal, but so we're standing there. It was while we were still fixing the car. It wasn't after the end of the race. We were all standing there fixing the car in the garage. This guy comes up to me. I was like, hey, who was driving this thing right after lunch? And I'm like, I was. why? And I was like, where were you driving? He goes, I was in. And he reaches out to give me a fist bump. And I'm like, you're fucking stupid. I was like, who? Oh, so you got to be kidding me. And the whole time this guy, and I just realized, like, oh, you are stupid. He had no idea there was ever any adversity on track. He's like, man, we had a great time. I was a little slower than you, but that was great. And he just wanted to talk about the horror. I was like, yeah, you tried to run me off the track a bunch of times like you wished I was dead. And this guy's so dumb. He's like, yeah, man, cool.
So much later that the old narrator got tired of waiting and they had to hire a new one.
Oh, jeez. Good Lord.
I was like, what is happening? But then, like, it was because I was all prepared to be mean to the guy, but he was obviously the scary. He was like, it was my first time driving the car. I was like, oh really? And every time I would raise an objection to what he thought was a great time out there, he would go, yeah, man, front wheel.
3,000 years later.
Anyway, so that was that one. Sorry, Bill, but that was crazy. I was just like, this guy's so oblivious. He should probably not be allowed on a road course with other cars trying to go fast. But that was a truly bizarre experience to have the guy who I was so angry at just walk up with a fist bump. I'm like, man, that was awesome. I was like, what is going on here?
Your fist bump goes right past his fist.
Whoops, landed in the wrong spot.
Meanwhile, the rest of the team is just watching this interaction. It's like, how is this gonna pan out, Ben? Are you going for the throat grab? No, it's the fist bump.
They're all sitting there watching because I've told everybody on the team, like, I'm gonna rip this dude's heart out. I'm gonna make him watch it beat till he's dead. Yeah, I don't really have a mean bone in my body when it comes to being a person, but I don't think I was nice to him either. But this guy was just so oblivious. He's like, all right, cool, man. Let's see you later. So that was entertaining. That was good entertainment for the day.
Is that how your Saturday was wrapping up?
Yeah, so we went back out, took the checker with a much better car, and we're excited to be loaded for bear for Sunday. And I mean, we were, especially after all the refreshing we did mid race, we were pretty ready to roll for Sunday's race. So we took advantage of the time to look around and go, hey, there's time to go get dinner in Reed's hometown, which is very close to where we were racing. So we cruised down to downtown Waxhaw and ate dinner at a nice Irish pub. And went to hang out at Reed's house and had a fire while everybody else was doing whatever they were doing.
We sat around a campfire, drank a few beers. Ben played some guitar. I think I remember.
I did. Picked up the guitar. So we had a very nice race, relaxed kind of evening. So it was cool.
Yeah.
Bill, you're muted.
I see that.
Yeah, you are.
So we had this nice relaxing evening because everything was good to go for Sunday.
That's right. What happened Sunday, Reed?
Yeah, so we actually made it to the front of the grid. We gridded up. Was it P1 that we gridded, or were we P2?
Yeah, we were P1 because I can't remember what happened.
The GRM car.
That's right. Yeah. So we were the first ones to get to take the green that day.
And Hans was the one who started the race that day.
Who's Hans? Have you already talked about who Hans is yet?
Oh, Hans is a pretty cool teammate of ours that we've been racing for a long while. Not only is he a great driver, he is like a whiz mechanic and engineer as well. So
genius level dude here.
Exactly.
Specky 46 racer, local Specky 46 star.
Very, very quick driver.
Very quick.
Ben, I'm gonna say, you used to by far be the fastest guy on our team, but I think Hans might be right there with you, if not maybe a little bit ahead now.
He was faster this weekend. I had me about a few tenths to me. But I will say, and just in all fairness, the guy did have clean track at the beginning of a race. My fast lap, was always working past somebody. So anyway,
power steering, and he had power steering.
Now that I wussed up and said that, hell yeah, I'm excited to have people driving with me who could drive exactly as fast as I can or faster. I place zero value on being the fastest guy on the team. I'd rather be part of a team that can all run the same speed, because look at how that went this weekend.
Yeah. So.
Until it didn't.
We take the representative samples from where they land and we analyze them. where they sit or whatever. It's good. It's great.
And so Sunday the race starts. We're starting in P1. Hans is out there. I think he led for maybe the first 5 laps or so, 6 laps.
Yeah,
And
first
then
handful of laps.
and was it the Stratus that was right behind
Yes.
him? And
My
they were kind of
buddies in the Stratus.
yeah. So the Stratus I think got in front of Hans, and then
Yeah.
Hans got back by him.
Yep.
And actually, I have some good video of that I started checking out from our little camera yesterday or last night.
Nice.
So, and then I believe the Stratus, once I was back behind him, there's a turn he spun in or something like that. So
Oh.
he dropped back a good bit. But as that little battle had been going on between the two of them, a nice Lexus SC 300 or 400, one of the cool looking Lexuses.
It's got a V8, so that's
Yeah.
probably a 400.
One of those.
Yep.
Who had been P3 gets up to P2 and then gets right up behind us. I forgot if it. I think it got by Hans at that point too. At some point in his stint, and we were sitting there trying to figure out. Well, let's see when it's going to maybe have to pit for fuel. When are we going to have to do that? Started mapping out kind of the whole day of when we're going to be hitting our pit stops, because the tank on my car normally lasts about a hour 30 to an hour 35 at VIR. We were hoping at CMP we could eke it out to maybe hour 45, which works out well with the stints and fueling.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't have to do a splash and go at the end of the day, which per Lucky Dog rules, it has to be 7 minutes for that race, which would have been 3 laps, really ate into our strategy. So as we're working on that, we're looking maybe pretty for this race at the end of the day to take home one of those cool Lucky Dog trophies that look like cute little dogs.
Yep.
So then that Hans starts getting a whine from the power steering, I believe.
Uh-oh.
And so this is a new rack we had installed the day before, a new used rack, I should say. And I think rack number 4 I've put in this car this year.
Yeah.
Sounds like there's a different problem.
Yeah. He comes into the pits and we immediately know what to do. And actually the night before we had been talking around the campfire or whatever, saying, hey, this might happen again. Let's get the exact tools we need to swap on the new belt, delete the power steering off. So basically I had all the tools lined up at the beginning of the race. So if he came in, we could just hop under the car, depower the rack. So I think it took 5 or 7 minutes to get the front bumper off, but on the new belt, got that all done, refueled the car, got Hans back in within 12 or 14 minutes.
Yeah, we were on pit. It was a 14-minute lap. So
yeah,
on and off a pit road, doing all that crap in 14 minutes. So we were like, hey,
that's really good.
That's the kind of thing we were like, that's a handful of laps, but it's the beginning of the day, so let's stay in it. We just decided to stay in it hard and see what we could do, because we knew we had pace on every damn body. You know what I mean? So we had pace, we got fast drivers. Everybody else has got okay cars. They've all got everybody. All those other teams, I guarantee they've got at least one weak link. We had no weak links. You know what I mean? As far as the driver squad, so we felt pretty good about our chances of at least trying to get back.
The weak link for us sounds like the power steering / another part of the car that I'm guessing we'll get to.
A little bit,
right? But we didn't. But we didn't have to worry about our drivers. I knew we could fit in drivers who could bang it out all day. And I knew we had great pace in the car, so we thought we're like, hey man, let's at least try to head back to see if we can get the top 5 or something like that. Because that took us down halfway through the field. I think we ended up coming back out in 31st spot.
31. I thought it was 31. Okay.
Yeah, I saw 31st, but we quickly started coming back up to the field too.
Yeah, I think I was in the car next after that.
That's right.
31.
We ended up with something like 50 minutes to run before the track shut down for local church hour from 11 to 12. So the race started at 9. Hans ran for a while, had the problem. We brought it in, changed that stuff out and threw Reed in the car. And then while Reed was in the car, we were frantically trying to decide what was the best way to make the best out of a bad situation. And our decision was to let Reed run it on out, but then bring him in with 2 minutes before the track was going to shut down for church time. So we'd be kind of mid-stop, at least get the car fueled. And then hopefully just rejoin the tail of the field, because they're like, hey, what if at the driver's meeting, they're like, hey, what if you're working on the car when everything shuts down? The guy's like, oh, you just go to the tail of the field. So that's what we were hoping for, but it didn't quite play out like that way. What happened with it at that point, Reed?
let's see, that point, I got back in the car after the hour of prayer that CMP shuts
Yes.
down for.
Praise all of them. For sure.
Yes. And I think they held us for a lap or something, or they held us till most of the. Well, I guess when at 12 noon hit, all the other cars could, or all the other drivers could leave pit road. They were already in, and they told us when 12 hit, you can go ahead and start getting belted in and everything and head to the end of pits, I think, if I'm remembering that right. So they didn't send us out at the end of the field, but they let the field get around. And I think the tail end of the field was maybe halfway through the track. And then they sent me out. So I basically just drove up under double yellow to the end of the field. So I rejoined in last place there at the end of the field.
Luckily, we were hoping to be able to just rejoin the field. We didn't care about being at the back of the pack. If you take a 15-minute break, it doesn't matter where you are in the pack. You know, we were just like, we would like to be more than being concerned about our exact track position at the time of the shutdown. We just wanted to get to the tail of the field. And I had a sense that just stopping, early stop, if it's a 7-minute required, it's a required 7-minute stop. I was like, we might have to hear from a lucky dog official about this before this is all sorted out. Because it was kind of a dicey move to sort of hope we could throw away a handful of minutes of a pit stop and just kind of join back up for the field. In the end, that's how it ended up playing out anyway. But I also had an inkling this might happen because I was walking around between all this happening during the hour of piety, and I was eating a bag of cashews and just sort of pacing around the race control area, race central, lucky dog race central. And I heard this sort of high-pitched conversation. And I heard timer and how it's going to play out. And then I heard somebody from Lucky Dog saying, well, we'll hold them and blah, blah, blah. But I couldn't tell exactly who they were talking about. I came up toward the end of the conversation, but I also was well aware that plenty of people at that race were paying attention to what our team was doing and what our car was doing, even though we had taken some time out of the race. And so it was like talking to somebody from race control. And I think he was worried about us trying to eventually take advantage of the stops. So I think he was down there hey, don't let those guys just jump right back in with the field or whatever. So I think he was whining about it, and then Lucky Dog had to do something. But either way, it played out the way we hoped it would, because they kind of dragged ass trying to get it right back started up. Because the deal, they came down and said when the clock strikes noon, you can hit the start on your timer. And because I think somebody came over from Lucky Dog and added 4 minutes back on our timer.
Yeah, I think so.
And so they were like, when it strikes noon, you can start the timer back up and you can start counting down. And as soon as the timer finishes, that's when you can start putting your guy in and get back in. So they were, it was, if they had actually been dropping the green at 12, it would have hurt us a lot. But didn't even have the cars rolling out of pit road until a couple minutes after 12. So we still ended up kind of hooking up with the back of the field and getting going, which is what we'd hoped for. But
it just means more people to pass too, which is
yeah,
fun.
Yeah. And our dicey move of kind of trying to just ask for forgiveness rather than ask for permission on trying to sort of work our way through that stop didn't really play out, but it didn't play out by the rules and by the consequence the nominal consequence we got, but turned out to be fine.
Oh, so you did mention that Randy Popes was there, and of course Kathy. So anybody else you ran into?
Yeah, there's some local racers. My buddy Mark Goodwillie, that's his last name. Mark Goodwillie was there. So some local folks. Amy Oldenburg, who's one of my local BMW buddies, was there. They were racing there at E36. We saw a bunch of people that we know. There's a funny Randy Pope story. Do you want to hear it?
Oh yeah, of course.
Reed, do you have any funny Randy Pope stories, Reed?
I don't. I'm always looking at Randy Pope like, oh, there are those Volvo taillights. Oh, now I see the headlights. He's way back there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Wow.
That mirrors my experience this weekend as well, because the car we brought was faster than the car he brought, so he was going to go by. I definitely passed the guy a couple of 3 times my damn self, but it was funny. I guess I was out there during the time when I didn't have power steering, or maybe when I did. But it was a Saturday, so we were not racing anybody. But I came up, and the moose was getting closer and closer as I'm coming along. So I was like, I'm going to pass this whoever's driving the moose. I didn't know if it was Randy or whoever. So I just passed the car and went on about my day. Whoever it was gave me a nice point by, and I went on by. But then I guess after that, Laura Vernon was like, "Yeah, I was talking to Randy, and he was on the radio, and he goes, 'Who was that just passed me?'" I didn't expect to get past it all today. Also turns out that pro racer Randy Post also admitted later that he really wanted to watch his mirrors because he wasn't expecting anybody to come by. So apparently I surprised him, which is great. Like, hey, no matter who you are, let's keep an eye on those mirrors, everybody.
Did
Randy-
Race Bar show up?
Race Bar didn't make it to this one. I wish they had.
I'm sure our car would have ended up with some decoration all over it or underneath it. Have you
Oh,
told them
yeah.
about the E30 getting up on Chad's lift? Our teammate Chad.
Oh yeah, so they left us a little phallic present stuck to the bottom of
Yeah.
our car one time, and then my teammate put it up on the lift, and his 10 or 12-year-old son's walking by like, hey, what is that?
It's a bump stop.
Yeah. That's a weird bump stop, buddy, but whatever works for you.
It's heavy duty. It's heavy duty bump stop.
Yep. So we that was the point of our race where we were kind of trying to still take off after because Reed was making up great progress, doing great progress in like almost an hour before Jesus hour. And then when it started back up, our program was just to keep making production, stay out there, keep it clean, make a lot of passes, and hopefully we could kind of keep climbing up through the field. So Reed,
and I think
went
I
out.
got. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say we were going to put Reed out there and just say run it till it's dry. We didn't know what to expect as far as the fuel delivery time. We were anywhere from, we were thinking an hour and a half at best, hoping for like an hour 40 would put us closer to the strategy we needed to be able to do it with 2 more stops that day. But Reed was able to go out there and do dang near 2 hours, right? Am I right about that, Reed?
Yeah, I
Pretty
think it was
close.
like an hour 50, and that was yesterday, dude. My shoulders and my
man.
arms are dead today
I could barely
from
hold it.
wrestling that thing around for
Yeah.
whatever 40 minutes before lunch and then 2
Yeah.
hours after lunch.
Yeah,
Oh.
I think I only did an hour and I could barely hold the pen today, so it was rough. The ratio in the steering rack that went in for Sunday was a lot tighter ratio, so you really had to crank that wheel to get any action going.
Yeah,
It was just
going through
super tight.
going through the carousel, I was just resting my my left elbow on the roll cage and just like, okay, I'm just gonna hold the wheel at this angle. Let's hope that works.
You set your arc and then you nail it with that elbow.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it looks
Who's
like he
that?
got up to 6th, Reed.
Yeah, I think I got into the single digits. I don't know if
Yeah.
it was all the way up to 6.
Yeah, it was.
Okay. All right. Nice.
Take 6. Just go with it.
Yeah, sounds good.
You were making production because I mean, even out there, it's hard driving that thing on pace with no power steering. That Reed was doing a great job. How
Yep.
was the car? How was it inside the car, Reed?
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, the tough thing without the power steering, you don't have the ability to do these little minute corrections in that car. Like, you can't catch the car as easily, or, had something happened right in front of me, 2 other cars came together or something, I think it would be more difficult for me to just eke it over to one side or something real quick. But you just have to, I think, plan out a little bit more what you're going to do through a turn in advance, and you're kind of stuck with that trajectory you're on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to place the car exactly where you wanted to put it.
Right.
Yeah.
If I set an arc that wasn't exactly right, usually you can kind of correct it up a little bit or make up the difference. But if you set a bad trajectory on the entry, you were kind of stuck with that.
Yeah. And now towards the end of my stint, the one thing I actually started smelling, and I don't think I told you this, Ben, you were going to be in after me, right? Is that you got in after me. I started smelling gear fluid. And I'm like,
I did not know that.
yeah. So I wonder if that's me, if that's another car. My car's shifting fine, everything sounds fine, it still feels great. Wonder where I'm smelling gear fluid from. Is there a little breather on top of the transmission or something, or a little seal on top, or it's venting a little bit or something. But anyways, I come in and
Nope.
and that turns out that was not the case.
Not the case. We'll find out shortly.
So we pit in, Ben gets in the car, and we probably drop back. If you have it up
10.
on your screen, we drop back to 10th maybe. Ben gets
10th,
in the car. Yeah. So
Okay.
then his plan is to go out there and pretty much, if he had been continuing the same pace I was doing, or a little bit quicker because he's Ben Dawson, planning out, where we're going to end up at the end of the day. We're looking at, certainly a podium, maybe first or second, ideally, if we kind of kept with our same strategy, and other cars were running similar times to what they had been that day. So then Ben, you're in the car.
Yeah, I get in and I'm definitely not able to run. I'm a couple of seconds off of the fastest times I had been able to do the day before. But you know, I wasn't hearing lap times over and over, but I think I was trying fairly consistent, pretty low 50s laps.
Yeah,
Low 50s.
Most of the other cars at that time were not doing that kind of time. I think I was running a fair amount faster than most of the other cars on track. You know, at that point on a Sunday afternoon, not everybody that's out there going crazy trying to do the fastest stuff, but we were. You know, we were still trying to move to the front, so we were trying to get after it. And I maybe what was I out there about an hour or something like that?
Yeah, that sounds
looks about
right.
that. Yeah,
so,
you got up to 5th before. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, so I'm out there driving along and everything's going okay. I had heard I thought I was hearing a whine, but I was also thought I was hearing a rub in the rear. So I was like, whatever noise I'm hearing, maybe it's just a rub. Maybe I'm hearing a whirring sound from a tire rub or something like that. And so I was kind of hoping for the best, and then it sort of didn't. I stopped hearing that. I kept hearing what I thought was a little bit of a rubbing sound in the rear end, but I didn't hear the whine anymore. So I didn't even bring it up because it kind of came and went pretty quick. So I was like, great. Maybe that was somebody else's car. You know, the kind of rationalizing you two in the car. Yeah. So I'm driving on along. I'm making good spots. I'm kind of catching car after car. Hey, the next one's up here. Where's the next one? They would tell me one. And then they would forget about it. Like the same lap, I would pass that car. Be like, all right, who's next? Like, where's the other one? I'm like, that's already gone. Give me the next one. So we were doing pretty good. But then Hans gets on the radio. He's like, hey, we're seeing a little puff of smoke where you let off the throttle to start breaking through the kink, because that's right in front of pit. That's right in front of the pit lane. You can really watch what the car is doing at the fastest moment of the track, and like we're just gonna keep an eye on it and maybe start short shifting, take it a little easy. So I did. And I guess we kept seeing they kept seeing enough of the smoke where it's like, hey, let's bring it in, check the oil, see if there's something obviously wrong. And then at that point, I brought the car in, and so whoever worked their way into the back first was like, nope, it's this, because I think the diff was obviously wet or something like that. So we just brought the car on in and put it on the trailer.
Yeah, the diff was leaking pretty good, and to rub it in coming home from work today, where the car's parked in my garage, I walk in through my garage. I just walk in there after work and it's like, oh, it smells really bad, like gear fluid in here right now. Thanks, car.
God, used gear fluid is almost as bad as feces. It's so bad.
I think it's worse.
Yeah, I was gonna say it might be worse, depending on maybe who made the feces. I don't know. Baby diaper, not that bad.
There's very few things that are worse than gear fluid.
It's terrible.
It is.
That's a real slap in the face when I read.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. Then of course I'm driving back. We load up the trailer and stuff. Like, I like hanging around to the end of the race to watch how everything turns out. But we had a big 3.5 hour drive back home.
Yeah.
So slam the car up in the trailer, load up, start driving back, and I'll call my fiance to let her know we're on the way back, and answer the phone. And like the first thing she says is, "Oh, it's early. What happened to the car?"
She ended up having the more entertaining story than any of us, but I don't think it's one that we can quote on this podcast.
That's in the Patreon version that we don't have.
Yeah, the Patreon. No, I think somebody came into her vet clinic after having eaten something they weren't supposed to eat. It's pretty bad from what I heard. Anyway,
that's definitely a Patreon version.
Not for this podcast. So for me, I hate to ever admit this, but when if it's a local-ish race and the car breaks early, the first thing in my mind goes to is, oh, I might get to see the kids tonight. So, as soon as the car broke a couple hours early and we're packing it up, but it's like, hey, you want to hang around and drink a beer? I'm like, let's slam a beer, because I might get to see the kids before they go to sleep tonight. So we all kind of shotgunned the beer. We all shotgunned a beer, waited a full hour, and then hit the road.
Yep.
And we of course didn't shotgun a beer while the track was hot either. We
certainly not. That's not
never.
what you do.
No, never do that.
Never.
Certainly not. We wouldn't.
Nope.
I wouldn't. Right, Reed? I know you wouldn't.
No, I mean duels maybe, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Mm-hmm. It might have been Gatorade, the yellow Gatorade.
yeah.
Real bubbly for Gatorade, but it's good.
Well, the All Sport used to be carbonated, so
Yeah,
that's right. I forgot.
we chugged some Four Locos and then hit the road, man.
Yeah, I was so wired, but also feeling like a nap.
Yeah.
I want a nap, but I can't slow down.
Yep. All right, so we're going to debrief. Any surprises on or off track besides Ben's story before, which may get edited just a little bit?
Well, that was the surprise of the attempted murder, the repeated attempted murder. That was one set of surprises. And then the other huger, like more insane surprise was the guy coming over to hug it out. Like, that was awesome, man. That was so cool.
You are in NASCAR country down there, sir.
Oh yeah, God.
Rubbin's racing. Rubbin's racing.
I'm aware. No, to be clear, that is completely not the kind of series Lucky Dog is. It was also what's funny is I told Kathy the whole story, just wanting to get a laugh from her. Like, I wasn't trying to do anything. She just was like, people are crazy.
They are.
That's why she's so cool though. She was at no point was she ever
great.
like, what car she was never like, what car is this? What was the driver's name? She was just like, man, people be crazy.
Yeah.
Kathy's awesome.
She is.
She
awesome.
is. I love
It's
it.
wonderful.
She also mentioned being very thankful to you, Bill, for doing so much social media around the event and kind of hyping it up for them.
Well, I mean, that's a series we'd love to see get a little bigger. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
Us too. Yeah.
Kathy, if you're listening, which we know you don't have any time, there is this thing called the Northeast. Lots of people.
I heard that from a lot of people. Like, wish they would come up to where I am. They don't want to come down to South Carolina. They want to race with Lucky Dog at Watkins Glen. That's what I heard over and over again. Yeah. Kathy, get the Glen. Kathy, get the Glen. That's all I heard. It's like a refrain. It's amazing how many people in South Carolina said that to me over and over again. I was like, how could over 100 people say the same thing? Kathy, get the Glen. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so nuts. But it was an overarching theme of the whole weekend. From what looking back, that's the only thing I remember was how many people were like, let's go do this at the Glen.
There's a bunch of racetracks up here that would be kind of fun.
Yeah, but the Glen though.
I know. That's not a baby boy track though. That's a big boy track. So
that is.
Yeah, it is.
They can start a summit or something.
Put that thing away, Ben. Anyway.
So what did you guys do? What'd you guys do well, and what do you guys think you could do better next time?
I'm going to go first before Reed starts trying to down himself about the car. I think we did everything really well this weekend. We had a plan for our pit stops. Our pit stops went really, really well. I think we did a good job with strategy. The strategy that we enacted to try to save our Sunday was on track to do exactly what we hoped it would. So I think execution and racecraft were all pretty good. I didn't want to hit that guy, but also I think something was wrong with the brakes. That was a bad moment, but overall, I think the team executed everything very well as far as getting to the track, getting the car through tech. We did all the stuff. We hit all our buttons. We were at the grid at the right time. We had done a Lucky Dog race before. I think one when I wasn't there, but we didn't get to the grid the time the team wanted to. So that was kind of a disappointment. Something we wanted to make sure we missed out on by doing the right thing this time. So I want to say that I think our team did a good job of hitting all of our marks, and we think we could have been pretty successful without a couple of car failures.
Yeah, I'd agree 100%. I mean, everything went really smooth getting the car prepped, and I don't think we would have done anything different even on my end, even before the race with that, with the steering or with the diff. Everything looked good. It wasn't leaking when it was here. So I think prep wise, we were on point. We had all the tools we needed. We had a lot of fun, which is why we're all doing this. So that was the main thing. I really like being able to race another car and have other cars, similar lap times to you, like the AR race was. That was awesome that we did this race. There were some cars that we were competing against, but man, it was a lot of fun just to be able to pass a lot of cars. It reminded me of Lemons, just traffic the whole time, and good traffic too. I mean, very good. People giving you room on track, other drivers communicating. I was getting point buys by a lot of people, or most people. It was wonderful, and just very, very little contact or incidents the whole weekend, which was great. The car, obviously, the downer there before I start belittling my car prep stuff, I guess, or while I start that. The power steering. That's a bummer. The differential too. I think
that's not a repeat offender though. So
it might become one. Please don't jinx that.
True.
There's a lot to be said for getting to do this stuff with the people you love which includes everybody I was doing that with this weekend. And God, there's a lot to be said for showing up and smoking the field, even if you don't finish. There's a lot to be said for showing up and just waxing everybody's ass and going, "Hey, how you doing?"
All right, so the elephant in the room. What are we going to do about this power steering issue? I mean, we could just put another rack in because that's worked so well.
Yeah,
before.
I mean, we're getting about an hour on each rack. So I think if we, strategy-wise, for a 7-hour race, we're going to need 7 racks.
Yeah.
Sounds cost effective.
Yeah. So I think the place the racks are failing is actually the hard lines that just cross over, the length of the rack. I'm not sure exactly what, the part name for those, but I've taken one of them off one of the racks and it looks like there's like a little rubber O-ring or something down in there. It's not just like a typical flare that seals. So there's something I suspect is causing pressure problems, or I guess we're overpressuring the rack or something, and that's maybe the weak link there. I'm not quite sure. Now the whole thing, I guess, started when I was originally building this car. Everyone online is saying, "Oh, you're not going to need power steering. No, you're a wuss. Be a man. You can drive a car without power steering." And we didn't have it in our E30 or Miata. They were great, but this is a heavier car, much wider tires too, and the rack, I think, is, I guess, the torsion bar or whatever is inside that rack too, going up the steering column. That's thicker. Maybe it's a tighter ratio in there too that I had in there, but man, it's a brute to drive without power steering. So after I deleted the power steering, following everyone's advice, I took it to the track and said, "Yeah, no, I can't do this." So then I put power steering back in, got a trick rack out of an E46. The way I have the engine set up with running oil pressure and oil temperature, and I have a different manifold on there from a earlier E36. I don't have room for now the stock located power steering reservoir. So I installed a remote mounted power steering reservoir, got a new or a reman probably pump, put it back on the car. And I'm suspecting now that either that pump is faulty. I think there's supposed to be some sort of pressure regulator, pressure relief inside that pump that may have failed, or I believe the high pressure line running from the pump down to the rack itself is supposed to have some sort of pressure control system in it as well. And I don't know if one of those has failed or is not working properly. At the same time, maybe I'm running the wrong power steering fluid in there. I think I filled everything with like just a Redline D4 ATF, but maybe that's not mixing well if there's any leftover BMW fluid down in there, because apparently that can eat up seals if you run a mixture of both of those.
I've heard it can gel potentially too.
There we go. So maybe it gels up in there. Or who knows? It seems like I have flushed out the power steering system. I haven't flushed it. It's flushed itself out, unfortunately, multiple times.
At turn 4, at turn 12.
Exactly, in my garage. So I don't think there's much contaminants in there that are eating seals up or something. So I think the next step here is probably going back to some OEM BMW parts for at least the high pressure line and the power steering pump. Hopefully this rack in the car, I can maybe just replace that hard line and the rack is still good. Get out to some DEs and test it before I register for the next race. Worst case scenario, switch over to like a EPS and just put electric power steering in the car and just get rid of the problems we're having.
Yeah.
I'd beg to differ. We can come up with and have demonstrated several times many more worst cases than that. So
I thought the elephant in the room was going to be, well, are you going to let Ben Dawson race with you again?
No, we covered that before you got on. Don't you worry.
Okay, got it. Got that covered.
Fear not, Ben. It's fine. Just skip this one. You don't want to listen.
So what is your ultimately your good, bad, and ugly for the weekend?
I'll go.
Yeah, go for it. Can the bad be the power steering?
No.
I don't think you have too much choice.
no.
But
No. The good was how fast the car was, how great the field was, how multitudinous the field was, how clean the driving was, how cool the series is. What was the first one? Did I say how fast the car was?
Mhm.
Yes.
And how
the
cool
si-
it looks with those stickers too. on it.
The sixth one is how cool it looks with the stickers on it.
There we go.
The seventh one was how fast the car was. The eighth thing is how cool it feels to be that fast in a field. And the ninth thing is how cool it feels to have other people come up to you and go, "Holy crap, man, that thing's fast. Y'all are driving the hell of that car." That's a great feeling no matter what phase you are in your career, you know?
Yeah, and I think the car itself is fast compared to a lot of the other cars out there. It had motor, it was well prepped, but man, just the guys driving it, like the three of you
Yes.
guys, and to a lesser degree me, can all wheel the hell out of it. So it's great.
No, don't sell yourself short. That was the 10th thing I was going to say of the good was how amazing the squad was. It was I've always wished for my whole endurance racing career to sit down in a car with a bunch of guys that can all drive very close to similar times. And that's what we had this weekend, which is one of the key elements of how competitive we were able to be even in the face of adversity. I'm going to say the bad was not finishing a race, whatever that reason is that makes you not finish a race. That was the bad, was just the ultimate result of not finishing. We were on such a good track toward it, headed back toward top 5, maybe top 3, maybe top 2. So I would say that was bad. And for me, the ugly was that guy trying to kill me. That's my personal ugly. But even that wasn't the end of the world because it was also just funny entertainment. Like I was not going to let the guy actually kill me. It was just like, what are you doing, fella? What do you think, Reed? What was your good, bad, and ugly?
I think you hit most of the good. I think the one thing I would really stress with that is just the Lucky Dog series, man. From Kathy to everyone else running that to the other competitors. I mean, I've raced in other series, I think like Chump Car, where it seems like all the teams for the most part get along, but there's a lot of this like rivalry, and you kind of want to be nice to the other guys, but also there's a lot of drama. There was no drama. Everyone was there having fun. Honestly, the weather was great. It was like 70s, 80s all day. I'm sure you would have liked a little bit more rain, Ben, but I was happy
we
not
all
getting
would, right?
that. Yeah. So.
Oh man, and what about Chris Wilhelm? That guy, all by himself, is a force of nature. That dude's awesome with the series.
Yeah, for sure. No, great job there from him as well.
Former podcast guest.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, honestly, I thought too for Lucky Dog, I thought at least Friday night we were going to get down there, wait in line forever to get teched and everything, and you might need to do this and that, and man, they made it a breeze. It was awesome. So,
yep,
that's great.
What about your bad, sir?
I think my bad. So it wasn't a surprise, I guess, that this steering. Sorry, Ben, another guy's driving me. I wasn't super surprised that the steering rack effed up again.
Yeah,
it's just that's going to be the main thing I'm fixing. I think the bad for me might have been that diff. I expected it to not do that, and us to probably finish. I think that the bad would be not finishing the race. But I think that was, for me, outweighed by just having a blast on track when it was running.
Oh yeah,
it
was way more good than bad for sure.
Yeah, even
absolutely.
I mean, I would have loved to come home with one of those Lucky Dog trophies that are shaped like a dog.
Mm-hmm.
Put that in the front office of the vet clinic I work in, so everyone that comes in says, "Oh, what's that from it?" Oh, let me tell you.
Oh, we won a car race. Let me tell you about that.
Yeah. So.
For everybody playing the home game, I've been looking at it. It looks like the power steering loss is about 5 to 6 seconds a lap.
Yeah,
it wasn't that much.
Yeah,
it's it's funny to follow on what Reed's saying. We all stood there after sadly pushing the car on the trailer with 2 hours of racing left to go. We all stood around there shotgunning our non-alcoholic beers, but we all looked at each other and was like, that was amazing. Like we kind of showed up and showed ourselves what we could do, and I think we showed up serious who either is or isn't looking what we could do. But we all left pretty energized, and we were all texting each other back and forth the whole way home, like, oh, how about this, how about that. So So even with the less than stellar final result, the overall result was we showed up and had a lot of fun and realized how quick and productive we can be. So that was pretty cool.
All right. And for me, honestly, power steering and a diff, those aren't that big of a deal. If it was the motor, if it was the body, I think that would be a lot more. I'd be a lot more sad panda right now.
Yeah, and we failed to say that the fairly big contact I had barely made any kind of impact on the M3. Like it had a tiny dent in one fender.
Yeah, I still can't really see the dent, but even if I could, I think I could just reach under there and push it out. So.
Yeah, so then we got off incredibly easily on the contact that we did have. So that was the nice thing about the weekend too.
Any uglies for you, Reed?
Nothing in particular. Those fire ants in the gear were not good. And honestly, I was worried I was going to be driving out there and it's like, there are fire ants in my helmet. They said not to get out of the car unless it's on fire. But what if there are literal fire ants eating the crap out of me?
Is that technically being on fire? Because they are fire ants.
It might be. I mean, I could be like, I'm allergic. And I think the other thing was just driving back in that truck, my arms just so sore, man.
Yeah. The state of my muscles today is ugly. Like I can barely grip a pen. I can't hold a beer up at all.
And then today been kind of going on some of the BMW forums or Facebook groups, looking like, has anyone else run into this situation? Pretty much all the replies are, you don't need power steering.
When it's a 15-minute sprint race,
you come drive this thing then, damn it.
Yeah, I said that to Vicky when we had the power steering issues with El Jefe that we figured out, and she's like, "I can't drive it." I'm like, "Get out of here, let me in."
Yeah.
I think
it was hard to drive.
I think I did a lap and a half and said, "This isn't safe."
There was one day I was trailering. I used to tow with not a 370Z. I used to tow with a Silverado.
Well, that's your problem.
Yeah. Well, I was backing the trailer up, like having to make a 90-degree turn or something to get it in my driveway, and the power steering died on the truck. And I remember having to get out, actually stepping like kind of on the, I guess I was standing on the ground and pushing the brake like with one hand or something, or put it in park and using both hands while I'm standing outside the truck and just turn the wheel to cut the tires to one side.
No.
I need to bring it to the attention of the home gamers that it's not the approved process for backing up a truck. No,
that's not what the SOP says at all.
No.
Although it's not that dissimilar from like backing up your Lamborghini Countach, so maybe that's what Silverado was after.
It's a little different. I mean, okay.
So, what did we learn from this race?
We got a fast squad of drivers in a pretty fast car.
Yeah. And maybe buy stock in whoever manufactures E36 steering racks.
Yeah, buy stock in that manufacturing company, and whoever else also buy that stock, and the people remanufacturing and whoever makes the rebuild kits, buy stock in that firm as well.
Yeah. And
I heard there's a local drought in the southeast of E36 steering racks. I haven't heard.
Not even for ready money, to quote Oscar Wilde.
Oh, that's funny. Well, we'd like to thank you for coming onto our podcast.
Thank you guys for having me. This is a lot of fun.
Thanks for continuing to have my weird ass on here. That's great.
We can't have Dominated with Dawson without a Dawson.
No. I don't know. I think we should get your dad on here sometime. Didn't he do some racing? He dominates just as much, Ben?
He has done some
racing. He's into like dominatrix stuff, I hear. Is that right?
Whoa. Hey now. We're in the Patreon version now.
That's news to me. That's a different subscription level. I think I'm not subscribing at that level, Reed, so I don't know that.
That's a whole different level of garage heroes in training there, boy. Whew.
Yeah, God. You're gonna have to call him and apologize for that.
That's right. Like the rest of the 8 billion people in the world, I'm sure he doesn't listen.
He's gonna love hearing from you, Reed.
Reed, if people want to follow you and play along and see how many power steering racks you decide to put into your car before you solve the problem,
Yeah, I should actually start. Like they started that Mazepin website for Nikita Mazepin.
Mhm.
Every time he spun, maybe I need one of those for steering racks.
I would
People
I
can
would go
follow
with the
along.
Instagram at powersteeringracks.us.com.
Sounds good. Yeah,
Should be available, I think.
I'll have to check into that for sure. Yeah, you know what? I mean, I think Winsome Racing, we have a Facebook page. That's a good
Yeah,
way
there's
to follow us.
we-
Ben's on there.
We've got a
Uh,
Twitter. There's also a Twitter page you can find.
Yeah, I
See, I
have a
think it's-
page too. Feel free if
Yep.
you're a race car guy. Read Tull. That's my name. It's READ. Like a book, what you do to a book.
Or if
Look
you're
at
just a person,
pictures.
if you're
Yep.
a person in search of love who likes hugs and great food cooked by a semi-professional chef right in front of you,
Oh yeah.
also find Reed's profile. He's gives great hugs, cooks
Yeah.
great food.
Yeah, and
Lovely guy.
it's the profile picture. It's me in a GRM helmet that my dog won from Grassroots Motorsports, their helmet competition for
Wow.
wear your helmet to work day.
Surely you've already covered this, right? Is this already been covered?
No, we didn't.
haven't. No.
I didn't
Wait a-
realize he
wait-
was
Oh,
minor
gosh.
internet celebrity. I mean,
Yeah.
my
Way,
bad.
way to bury the lead till the very last line of the whole
Oh,
thing. It's like, yes,
Oops.
this guy won the bring your helmet to work day thing one year. It's great. Last year?
No, I think 2 years
Yeah.
ago. I'd been runner up
so-
like 2 years in a row. Then I finally won. But it was the year they switched over to the SA 2020 helmet. So it benefited me actually.
And you
Oh,
got
he's like
longer
a-
life.
Yeah.
He's like a helmet contest dynasty, one man dynasty over here. Jesus, I don't think I knew you'd been so close so many times before.
Yeah, I think Mark Petronas won last year, and there was no way you were going to beat that.
Abs-
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Bring him all the helmets. Bring him
Exactly.
everything.
Yeah.
We're I think we're like 2 or 3 weeks away from racing with him on the track again, so that'll be great.
Oh,
Get to see
cool.
him in
Awesome.
person.
Hell yeah,
So-
that's cool.
So excellent. Reed, thank you for tolerating us for this long. Ben,
Hey, thank
Yes.
you guys.
we don't know why you keep coming on, but we're not going to talk you out of it. So
Well, that was cool. It was really cool to talk over the race and how it went. I think Reed and I were both still pretty excited about that. The
For
way the
sure.
whole weekend went. The whole weekend was great with that series and great with the car overall. Super cool.
Yep. Kathy's way overdue to come on the podcast again. Hopefully we'll get her back and start bargaining for some Northeast races. I think we even have a confirmed text in my phone that has been saved that if the Lucky Dog comes to the Northeast, we can get Mr. Dawson to come out of his cage and come up north and race with us.
Oh,
I don't know. It sounds sketchy, but they probably would.
Yeah, baby.
All
right.
right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks
thank
so
you
much.
guys.